This summer, big box retailers are seeking a massive big government handout from Congress paid for by consumers. Mega retailers are trying to trick Congress into enacting harmful credit card routing legislation, falsely claiming that it will help small businesses. In reality, this big box bill would transfer billions from consumers to retailers, while eliminating popular credit card rewards programs, weakening cybersecurity protections, and reducing access to credit. So tell Congress to stop this big box bait and switch and oppose credit card routing legislation. Visit stopthebigboxbaitandswitch.com to learn more.
Thus, as I read the public documents as the Department of Justice action against Hunter Biden, there is nothing that indicates Hunter Biden will be required to amend his false tax return for 2018. A false tax return that includes improper deductions for prostitutes, sex clubs, and his adult children's tuition. Again, perhaps when the plea agreement is released, it may provide us with a greater understanding.
The 2024 Republican presidential primary field is taking shape.
The battle lines are becoming clearer, and so is the field of candidates.
Is the odds-on favorites, if you look at the polling, still Trump versus Biden?
That seems to be it, but it's just way too early to tell.
I'm more angry now, and I'm more committed now than I ever was.
Big challenge for these candidates is going to be how do they navigate Donald Trump? And how do they navigate Ron DeSantis?
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
The big week continues here on the Ruthless Variety program. That was a oversight hearing in which there's some whistleblowing going on about the investigation into Hunter Biden.
Yeah, that was Special Agent Joseph Ziegler, 13-year veteran of the IRS.
I didn't know that hookers were tax deductible.
That's well, you're telling me you.
Well, Hunter does.
Yeah,
you've been reporting those wrong, Smug.
I mean, holy shit!
Oh, you got to buy hookers through a C4.
Yeah, clearly.
You got to keep that dark.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, we're going to get into that in a lot more here on the Variety program today. We have two special guests, including RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel.
That's right.
Yeah.
Who's here to make a special announcement.
Yeah, a little bit of news here on the Variety
A little
program.
bit of news, a little bit of news. And then we've got Ohio Senate candidate Bernie Moreno. You've heard him here before, but he's in studio, and I think he got a little special, a little extra.
I mean, that was a phenomenal interview.
It was
phenomenal.
Good. It was really good.
He brought a very special gift, so you're going to want to stick around for that.
You're going to want to stick around. We are, again, I think have we closed the Iowa ticket URL thing at this point? You know,
I think people have like one more day, and then we really we got to stop selling.
We're putting the old man through the paces here.
I know.
Because we keep getting more signups, and then every time we're like, okay, just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah.
And
the old man's like, guys. There are fire codes. There are all sorts of limitations on buildings. You can't stuff.
You guys make it sound like I'm the one stopping us from doing everything. Just like with playing the music that'll get our YouTube taken down.
Michael, would you like a bourbon?
No, I don't want a bourbon, but
there you go.
I do want people.
You see where his head's at.
No fun. We keep saying
the stickler.
We keep saying we want more minions. We want lots of energy. Like let as many people in as possible. And Duncan's like, only like one more day of tickets. And that, like,
Duncan didn't have the courage to do the right thing.
He did not have He did not. And on the episode of Pence, I mean, that's a low blow.
Yeah, so for me, not for any of them, if you are interested in going, go to ruthlessiowa.com, get your tickets. We really got to close that thing down here this week, and then we will let everyone know our venue.
Yeah, well, if you want to play bridge in a hotel lobby, let Michael know because he's going to be your guy.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Are you calling me a nerd?
No fun, Duncan.
Well, no. Don't limit this guy to bridge. He can play canasta, pinochle, hearts, spades, anything.
You forgot euchre. I'm a very good euchre player.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
That's suspect.
I'm sure you are. Well, listen, we're going to have a great time out there. Very excited. We got some very special guests out there, too. And the Iowa people are our people. We were out there a few years ago. Had a blast. We're going to have an even bigger time. So come on board, Ruthless Iowa.
100%. Also, I'm not going to spoil the surprise, but I'm going to be out of town this weekend with Foldy, recording some incredible content that's only going to be available on our YouTube. So if you are one of the listeners who has yet to subscribe, go on YouTube, subscribe to Ruthless, and you're going to enjoy this surprise coming up.
I'm a little nervous about this because this is the first time that Smug is going to be providing content that's unmoderated by the rest of the crowd.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to be a significant part of it.
Smug Unleashed.
I'm worried.
And I'm also worried about him leaving because, as you recall, when he went to Egypt, he got the OG original COVID. What is he going to come back from this road trip with? What mystery disease?
I'm worried.
Well, I'm taking Foldy with me. He's gonna
take some emergency with you.
We're gonna get some amazing content for everyone. But again, you will only see that on the YouTube. So if you have not yet, go subscribe right now.
I love it. Okay. All right. So we start every Thursday episode, which, by the way, is beginning to be, this is kind of like the staple episode. This is the one where we really let our hair down.
Yeah.
But we start every Thursday episode with a little reading of the 5 stars, and we do it with the voice.
Okay, this one is from KTB 1750, and it's titled Suburban Mom Sanity. Suburban Mom Sanity, and KTB 1750 writes, "Fellas, love the program. As a mom of 3 young girls, it can be challenging to follow the very depressing political news that seems to keep coming and still maintain a positive outlook about the future of our country. Listening to the show gives me hope and keeps me laughing."
Nice.
Also, your interview with Senator Schmidt surrounding the perspective and responsibility of having a child with special needs hits so close to home. I'm a mom of a daughter with Down syndrome, too. Man, love you, KTB 1750.
That's awesome.
What a lucky club we have a pleasure of being in, Ashbrook. All the best, guys.
That's awesome.
She's exactly right. She is exactly right. Kids with Down syndrome are just such a blessing, and people just wouldn't know it unless you spent time around an adult or a kid with Down syndrome. You fundamentally would not know what a blessing and what just a delight they are to be in the company of. I mean,
that is 100% true.
Yeah.
And you had the graciousness to invite much of the cast and crew here to the Global
Down Syndrome Foundation
Down Syndrome Gala.
Yeah.
Here in D.C.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, if somebody can walk away from that with anything but hope, inspiration, and just an optimistic view about human life and who people are and who they can be, I don't want to know you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that if you can't see it there, you can't see it anywhere.
Yeah, no, these kids are so much fun. They're just absolutely the best, and like they've got such an incredible outlook on life, unburdened by all the things that some of the rest of us are, and my own daughter, she's very, very, very precious to me.
Yeah, an angel. She called me Mr. Smug.
She does call you.
I mean, what a respectful child.
Respectful.
Wonderful kid.
Yeah, she should give you more disrespect, but she's just nice like that. There's nothing that she could do. All right, Duncan, what do we got next?
We got Tide Fan J. The title is Helping to Bridge the Distance. Fellas, I want to thank you for providing such an awesome and informative program. Unlike so many others, I did not discover you through MK. That's Megyn Kelly. I found you by accident, and the first episode I heard was the Ted Cruz interview way back in the day.
That's a classic.
That
is a
classic. If you haven't listened to that, you ought to go back and check it out.
Really good one.
I haven't missed an episode since. Not only do you make conservative politics fun, you have helped me understand more of the inner workings of politics and what goes on behind the scenes. I'm glad they appreciate that. We like doing it. I am currently working in Maine, and my teenage daughter is in Alabama. We both listen to the episodes and get on the phone after and discuss and laugh about things that were said. It helps to keep us connected. Thank you guys for providing that. Keep up the good work.
So
that's great. We're bringing families together.
Fantastic.
I love that.
It's so great to hear.
Yeah.
Smug, what do we got next?
So this is from High Def 51. The title is Thanks. It says, "Been listening to you guys for a while now and enjoy your show. I'm another one of those who first heard you on the Megyn Kelly show and have been hooked ever since. With all the ridiculous nonsense going on in this country, you guys make it much more bearable. Your knowledge of the subject matter you discuss is refreshing, and the added humor is a plus. You always have great guests who are informative and present many different perspectives and point of views." That's key. We always try to do that. Look forward to Tuesdays and Thursdays. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I mean, God, I just love reading those things.
We have the best listeners.
We do. We really do. So we have an ombudsman issue here, and usually that comes from McDaniel, but oftentimes it comes from friends of the program. In this case, MK Ham, Mary Catherine, who is a frequent guest on the program. She took some issue with our dingo commentary. The fellas need more dingo education. Dingo ate my baby line is from a movie dramatizing the actual death of a 9-week-old baby in the Australian wilderness. The cops didn't believe the mom and dad convicted them of murder, and years later it was determined that it was, in fact, the dingo. So, I mean, are we wrong?
No. So that's the thing. That's the origin story. I think it was Ashbrook who's trying to refute that there's an Australian kind of like a dingo Passover where they've kind of accepted that dingoes will eat their children. This is just a way of life down there. But it's a country of criminals. There's a cost to be paid.
Passover might be one of the most offensive things that we've done.
We had the former prime minister of that country on this show.
We should ask him about that.
Well, now that we know, I mean, I feel
he's never coming back.
His people are like, good God, thank God we got out of that. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, well, so it turns out that it's exactly right. Dingoes are savage, capable of framing humans and inspiring mid-'80s Meryl Streep vehicles.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yet again, we were right.
This is keep your eye out for the dingo.
100%.
As you should for all animals.
All right, so we've made a tradition, if you will, out of, on Thursday episodes, talking about from the presidential primary perspective who won the week. And it's an interesting week. There's obviously a lot that's going on here. I'm curious, fellas, what do we think, Smash? What do we think?
Okay, so this was a very tough week to judge. There was a lot going on. President Trump was indicted for the third time. Ron DeSantis laid down a ton of money out of his super PAC, so not from the campaign. Nikki Haley has released some interesting stuff. But this week, even though there are a lot of strong candidates out there, this week I'm going to give the week to Tim Scott.
Okay.
Tim Scott has released a handful of ads in Iowa, and he has been pushing a very strong message, and he just booked $40 million out of his super PAC. Now, obviously not Tim Scott directly, but his allies in the super PAC.
$40 million's a big number.
$40 million.
Yeah.
It is not anything to shake a stick at. There were some stories earlier this week about how there's new interest in Tim Scott among the donor class in Wall Street, and I just think that he's sort of he's the guy that won the week.
Okay. All right. Michael?
It's got to be Bergam. It's just got to be Bergam.
Okay.
He had that fundraising gimmick where he gives you $20 if you give him a $1 donation, the gift card to get you through these trying times of Bidenomics, which which everybody appreciated. But a lot of people were doubting that and didn't think that would work for him. And he announced on Hugh Hewitt that he has crossed the 40,000 donor threshold to qualify for the debate stage. Who would have thought when Doug Bergam announced that he would do that?
I mean, that is something, right? We knew he had a great head of hair, but you never know how many people appreciate Flo.
Right.
I mean, I said from the beginning, Bergam damn near killed him.
I mean, just think about a field that includes Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, all the other than DeSantis and Trump, which everyone assumed like they're going to do it. That's going to be very easy for them. But for Bergam to post that number, it's pretty. I mean, it's impressive.
Pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive.
On the front of my mind, I have a question along those lines for you because this is your specialty. I've gotten some DMs from folks who said that they gave $1 to Bergam. They don't know whether he's going to mail the gift card, how that's going to work. But they said they've been getting spammed with text messages nonstop from him for fundraising. Do you think that would, number one, giving that $1 for 20 is a good indicator of like, hey, this is a donor to prospect?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, right? Because like
Well, it's
you're giving someone a gift card. It doesn't mean they're necessarily 100% committed and on the team. Right? But you're doing the hardest thing in politics, and that is somebody proved they're willing to give you $1. They've saved their credit card information and win red.
Yep.
Right? And so if they would like to give again, that process is much easier for them.
Also, you're now following somebody you gave $1. I mean, I think the biggest challenge for somebody like Bergum is to just be followed.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with these titans of Republican politics where you've got a press corps that moves with them everywhere they go. Nobody's moving around with Doug Bergum at this point. So the chances of getting information flow about what he's up to on a day-to-day basis, like you got to go looking for it. But if you're getting $1 to him, it means A, you've gotten it, and 2, I think you're probably going to be more likely than not to look for it.
Yeah.
So it is. I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, and I think, the reason why people are probably getting a lot of text messages, the first thing they got to do is separate the wheat from the chaff there. Yeah. Who gave the $1 for the $20 gift card and who might actually be a long-term, donor committed to the campaign.
Yeah, that's their challenge for sure. Smug, what do we got?
So I have kind of a wild pick. Maybe even it'll get me in trouble.
Ooh, I like these kind of things.
I pick Glenn Youngkin.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, this isn't outside the boxer.
So there is news that recently came out that Wilbur Ross is going to host
former Commerce Secretary.
And great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy to hang out with.
Titan of industry.
He is going to be at his Hamptons home having a fundraiser for what's being called emerging White House hopeful Glenn Youngkin. This is from the New York Post. It says that the New York Post hears that 56-year-old Youngkin has serious White House ambitions. So he's going to be at the Hamptons at Trump's former Commerce Secretary's home doing a fundraiser. It says here that, meanwhile, we're told that Trump's former Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross, he's hosting that meet and greet for Youngkin. Youngkin, who was the co-CEO of the Carlyle Group until he quit in 2020 to run for governor, is going to be at Ross's Southampton home in the coming weeks. That shows you, number one, he's not going to have a problem fundraising.
Oh, yeah.
This is a guy who knows a lot of folks with a lot of deep pockets, himself included,
right.
Clearly getting a lot of buzz, but the specific thinking that apparently is maybe among Youngkin's camp, maybe Youngkin himself. He can come on the show, clear it up if I'm wrong about this. The thinking is he may consider running and launch a campaign for the highest office in the land if Donald Trump faces significant legal pressure. If this ends up being that kind of a situation, Youngkin might jump in. And the fact that he's garnered this level of donor interest in even the former Commerce Secretary.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I think what Kemp said on the show on Tuesday, though, is sort of more where my head would be at if I was Glenn Youngkin. Like, there's a lot of folks in this field that are not Donald Trump.
Yeah.
If that situation arises where Trump's in real legal jeopardy of being convicted, and there's going to be a lot of other people out there with a 9-month head start on you.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of want to see what that field looks like. I mean, what was clear about what Kemp said is he thinks the field is too big right now for him to be interested in it. If something were to change, that he wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah.
I think that's probably. I mean, look, Youngkin hasn't been on. I think he's coming on in the next couple of weeks. I think that's probably, if I'm in his team, along the lines of what I'm thinking right now. You're not going to go in and go against a 10-person field vying for 9 slots other than Donald Trump and think that you're going to make any difference than what has currently been out there. But a lot of things change.
Well, that's true, and it's he has been a huge part of this. We've got Chairman McDaniel on here shortly talking about Bank the Vote. Youngkin's been a huge part of this early vote movement, and obviously the guy is very well networked with deep pockets, and it's extremely interesting.
And can I
that
say
he is participating in an event where he is being described by Wilbur Ross as like potential, maybe someday type Like that's very interesting stuff.
And also, huge credit to him. You guys remember the red vest thing last cycle? He would show up to Republican candidates all over the place, give a red vest, put his arm around, be like, "This guy's a winner. Help them out."
Yeah,
he's a team player.
He's working for a lot of I mean, as Kemp does too. I mean, these guys are out there spending their valuable time trying to elect Republicans out of the goodness of their heart.
And then meanwhile, on the home front, absolutely crushing it in Virginia. Just like dismantling the whole like left thing of their grip on schools. Like promises made, promises kept. He's kicked the shit out of like the teachers unions demanding to have total control of those schools. He's been a huge advocate for parents. His polling is out of control. The guy is not like, this is not a nutty idea.
He won a state Republicans aren't supposed to win.
Yeah. All right, so my winner this week is Ron DeSantis. And the reason for that is last weekend it was probably the worst weekend that any campaign could ever have. Right? Bunch of speculation about staff layoffs, about insolvency was the buzzword about, how much money he raised versus how much he spent and whether they're going to make major changes. They did make some changes on the staff front, but I think they made more major changes in terms of what they were doing for the external communications. You saw him go on Jake Tapper on CNN. Jake is not an easy interview for a Republican or Democrat. He asks tough questions. And I thought he hit that thing out of the ballpark. Did very well. Did an event. Jake was down in South Carolina because he was doing an event that was overshadowed by a Trump indictment, which, I think most of the time when you say somebody steals your news cycle, you would say that's a bad thing. But if it's a potential indictment, I don't know if it's a bad thing or not. Point is that he also got into the news cycle with what he was doing just by showing up in South Carolina alone. That takes a little bit more fortitude than you typically see out of a presidential campaign that's floundering.
Yeah, it was interesting because it's kind of a microcosm of the entire primary, right? It's like anytime somebody's about to get a little bit of news, here comes another indictment of Donald Trump. The first 15 minutes of Tapper's show was recapping the Trump indictment news, right? And it's just, what a tough place to be a candidate not named Donald Trump when you're trying to get your message out there.
Except for the fact that, like, is this good or is this bad? I don't know. I mean, who knows in the context of this primary and how it's worked out. Anyway, I think he fought through a lot of that. And then there was also stories like this one in Politico about how there was a whole bunch of domestic energy people who are migrating towards DeSantis who've been traditional Trump supporters. Again, for a floundering campaign, you don't get that kind of thing. And that's, I think, Monday morning, all of us would say, like, that campaign's in a real rough spot. By Thursday, it seems to me like they've sort of not only righted the ship, but he's running a campaign again. And then you have that New Hampshire poll that came out this week, where he went from like a 25-point margin down to like a 13 or 14-point margin. As you always say, Michael, an insurmountable becomes
a mountable
deal. So who knows? New Hampshire was not Iowa in terms of how people thought Donald Trump's strength was. They thought conventional wisdom was that Iowa was the best place to try to knock Donald Trump off, and New Hampshire was a bridge too far. All of a sudden, look, if the UNH poll in New Hampshire is any indication, 13 points this far out feels like you got some running room. Anyway.
Yeah, then you got a few weeks between New Hampshire and South Carolina, which is going to be another marquee race, and you could see a huge contest in South Carolina if there is a mixed result.
I mean, it happened for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Complete turn of that primary.
Yeah, let me say also noteworthy, and I didn't pick her because I did pick her last week, but Nikki Haley's response to the potential Trump indictment I thought was light years better than everyone else in the field. The idea that this just guarantees that we're going to continue to have a Republican presidential primary focused on one man's legal troubles, one man's injustice, one man's legal bills, one man's everything about him, and nothing to do with the policies that are better for the American people as opposed to what Joe Biden is doing governing this country.
Well, and I'll raise you one because, if they delay some of these trials, as may happen in the documents thing, that might not happen until 2025. Who knows? I don't know what the judge is ultimately going to decide in some of this stuff or some of these other indictments. but that could be the general election. You can end up in a situation where we've got Joe Biden, inflation, open border, things falling apart abroad, and we're having a referendum election on the former president rather than a referendum election on the current president.
Yeah.
Which, guys, that's a tougher hill to climb.
It's a tougher hill to climb. And look, we talk to Lasavita, we talk to the Trump team all the time. Obviously, they're well positioned in the polls right now, and they're a prohibitive front runner. But at some point, you do have to ask, like, if your goal is to win the presidential nomination, if you believe, as we believe, that this country is in a very, very dire spot, that it needs conservative leadership, or else we're going to tip into something unrecognizable from what we've grown up in and what we hope to raise our families in the future, then you got to factor that in at some level.
Dude, not only do you have to factor it in, I would argue it is the central question of the primary. I think that for any Republican running for president, the central question is, are you going to win the White House for the conservatives, or are you going to lose it to the liberals? There is no other question in this entire contest. And I think Trump is going to do his level best to argue that he's capable of beating Biden this time when he couldn't beat him the last time. But this argument that Nikki Haley made is the one that people should be making, because it's not a question of value judgments of what do you think the government's doing to Trump, or they're giving. Of course they're sticking it to Trump. The government is full of libs.
Yeah.
We can't root that out unless we win the control. And so
and also, in fairness, a double-edged sword of that is he had control.
Well, he did.
And it wasn't rooted out, clearly. So, I mean, look, there are a lot of different arguments there. I think the point is that this is a dynamic atmosphere.
Right.
People like us, like all of you listening, are thinking about a bunch of different inputs here. Nobody's just sort of well, this is there's some, but most people they're shopping around, trying to figure out who's going to win this thing. And I think, Nikki made a good case. She made a good case. Who's not making a good case, by the way?
Who's that?
Two things happened this week that we didn't cover earlier. The first is the squad. You had Tlaib come out and say incredibly anti-Semitic things. Did you guys follow this?
Yeah, I didn't actually see what she said, but
I mean, it's just but the thing is it comes up every 6 months. And every 6 months,
they hate
they're like,
Israel.
oh, well, sorry, we didn't mean to be anti-Semitic. It's like, well, I don't know. If you do it every 6 months for 4 years, feels like that's just what you mean.
Right.
So she does it again, and then she comes out and apologizes, and the House promptly passes resolution. She basically called the state of Israel racist. Right? Not basically. I think she explicitly said
that.
Yeah. And then they passed a resolution with all but 9 members or something like that.
And they're all in the squad.
Yeah. So that's the point. All 9 members who said that it is a racist country were the squad, the left side of the map. And this is a crew that's very, very complicating your establishment Democrat who has counted on the Jewish community to being a core part of their constituency since the beginning of time.
Yeah, leadership had to put out a joint press release.
Right.
Democratic leadership.
Which is tough.
Yeah.
And so all this is happening, and the backdrop of this is the president of Israel is visiting the White House.
Yeah.
So listen to what Joe Biden... So Joe Biden has got an obligation at some level to come out forcefully and be like, no, this is my party and my country's voice towards this. Listen to what this clown has to say.
And we brought Israelis and Palestinians together at a political level and Akwa and all Shram. Yes. And as I affirmed the Prime Minister.
Pretty incredible, right? I mean, you couldn't even tell. He was like a mumble, jumble, nothing.
The other thing, friend of the program, Matt Foldy, pointed out on Twitter yesterday is that usually when a head of state from a foreign ally comes to town to talk to our leaders, they will fly their flag on the old executive office building and some of the other official buildings in Washington. No Israeli flag to be found.
I mean, I think that it's, again, a situation kind of of the tail wagging the dog, of where you've got this squad of idiots. That's what they really are. who have such an outsized voice in that party. Like all of this insane policy, yes, these are crazy, ridiculous people. Ilhan Omar tweeted, "This is the hottest day in like 250,000 years," right? And it wasn't even the hottest day of the week.
Got like right? Twitter notes immediately.
Yeah, instantly got hit with that. But like these are the people that are informing and controlling the left.
Yeah.
Which, again, goes to how important and critical it is to win and get these nut jobs out of control.
So we need to find out how it is that we beat back the left and how we manage this process to get to a point where we're nominating a candidate that will ultimately win a presidential election, bring a lot of senators and congressmen along with them. And to do that, we have RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel. Let's go. Well, what a pleasure it is. We're here to welcome an old friend of the program.
Old friend.
Yeah.
Old young friend.
An old young friend.
I love that.
That's the most important distinction that we've got here. RNC Chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel.
So great to be with you guys again. First time in studio.
Yeah,
in your new studio. I love it.
It's almost like we're professional.
It's very ruthless. It's very ruthless themed. It's good to see your faces. You all look so much nicer and friendlier in person than on the phone. Yeah, you're great.
I'm glad to hear that. We don't always get that.
I think you guys are great.
Especially Smug. I mean, he had a lot of detractors on his look.
Well, I won't talk about Smug. I'm talking about the other three.
I love it. No, look, you've been working hard, and I know that your entire team has worked hard since the moment you walked into the RNC. But clearly, we've got a make or break election here.
Clearly, yeah.
And we've learned a lot of things over the last few cycles, some of which have landed on our doorstep that we've had to adapt and change. And you've got new things that you're rolling out to try to meet all of this to ensure the Republicans not only vote, but we get our vote in to reduce some of the subjectivity of Election Day.
Exactly.
And one of the things is the bank your vote that I think is really important. I'm totally for this. Incredibly important stuff. Tell us a little bit about this.
Thank you, Josh. It's bankyourvote.com. Go to that. But really what it is we can't let Democrats take advantage of the entire voting period and not be getting Republicans out. So a lot of this is going to be education. We have a lot of Republicans who say, oh, I only want to vote on Election Day. What they don't realize is when we're chasing your vote on Election Day, we're not chasing that low propensity voter. Yeah. And we're putting ourselves at a disadvantage and letting the Democrats get a head start. So we've launched this initiative, bankyourvote.com. We're going to be launching it state by state. And really, it's going to be helping educate voters on what the laws are in their state, ways to track their ballots. And then the other component is we're going to protect your vote at the same time. Yeah. We're going to have poll watchers, poll workers. We're going to be litigating in the states. But it's that whole combination that we need to ramp up even more. Now, people forget, 2022, we turned out 4 million more Republicans than the Democrats did.
Yeah, people do forget that.
And we would have won the Electoral College, okay? Yep. So we would have won because we're the top vote getter in Arizona, New Hampshire, and Georgia. So we are doing this, but we have to get better, especially in states like Pennsylvania that'll be key in a presidential year.
No question about it. I mean, just to put a finer point for listeners who are trying to figure out like why this matters and why it doesn't, we did some work, as our listeners are well aware, in Nevada last year, key Senate race there. And there were some counties that were 80-20 Republican.
Yep.
That it's an entirely universal mail-out ballot situation. So every single voter, and it's a universal registration. So anybody in the state, you basically get a ballot sent to them in the mail. And we had 57% turnout in a lot of these counties where there was a 60-point margin for the Republicans. Look, I understand how people want to show up on Election Day. It's tradition. I love doing it. I know a lot of people who love doing it. But when you're dealing with 43% of people who actually don't participate in that and they have a point of view in the election itself, we got to remedy that.
We do. And a lot of things are just habitual, right? We do things by habit, right? So Republicans don't love mail voting as much, but then we can make up the difference in early vote in person. In a lot of states, we can get people to go vote early in person and still bank that vote before Election Day. And that's fine. As long as we're getting those votes in before Election Day, I don't care which method it is. But also, like you're saying, Josh, a lot of states are changing their laws.
Yeah.
Nevada now sends a live ballot to every voter, right? In Pennsylvania, that permanent absentee voter roll, you get an absentee request form. You don't get a live ballot. So it's different every state. But Pennsylvania before 2020 had excuse absentee voting. Now they have no excuse absentee voting.
Yeah.
So we have to educate our voters as to the new system and ramp them up so they can be prepared for the new laws that are on the books. And this is where I think the Democrats are so good. They always invest in process.
Yeah.
There's never an off year for them. They are always thinking, how am I going to go chase these ballots? How am I going to manipulate the laws or use the laws?
The constellation of dark money.
And
C4
it's all dark
stuff.
money coming in. And they're thinking about that, where our party, I hear this every day. Oh, Ronna, I want to see who the nominee is going to be. Well, I'll wait to see who the candidate is. And if we're not building the infrastructure for the candidate to plug into, it's not going to matter. We have to be building that infrastructure this year if we're going to be successful for 2024.
Well, that infrastructure is so important. And as you said, there are some states where there's a familiarity with early voting, and there's some states where
remember
people
like
just
Colorado, Arizona, back in the good old
State
days.
is very familiar with it. It's all absentee.
We used to dominate this area for years.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work in some of these states, Arizona in particular, where people actually are familiar with it. But you're the first chairman in the history of the RNC to really like buckle down and make this a priority. And I wonder if you would just, you talked about infrastructure and the things that you're doing to build this out in each of the states where people aren't as familiar with it. I wonder if you would talk a little bit more specifically about some of the stuff you guys are doing on the ground.
So we're getting ready to launch. We're going to launch state by state. So you'll get a Bank Wisconsin or Bank Ohio, and we're going to go down the states. We'll have an interactive website that you can go on and
it
see
tells people about like what the
laws are in their state, what the filing deadlines are, when you get your ballot. Like Pennsylvania, you can vote. You can actually vote early in person, absentee, 50 days before the election. Most people don't know that. You know, how do you track your ballot? Those types of things. But then we're also recruiting ambassadors in each state. So we'll be launching a media initiative and then creating Bank Your Vote captains in each state as well that are focused on getting our volunteers and our voters aware of this. A lot of it's going to be education.
Yeah, I think that's huge, the education component of this, because I mean, number one, just as a voter myself, I know like if I have to go to an early vote location, it's different than my election day location.
Yeah.
Right? Or, you know, I mean, I've sent millions of absentee and early vote text messages and campaigns. And you hear from people how confused they are with the process sometimes, or how much they distrust it.
Also, the F you, I'm voting on election day.
Yeah, I'm voting on election day and election day
I
only.
hear that all the time.
And it's
we
like,
hear that
well,
all
I hope
the time.
you don't have a flat tire. You know?
Right.
And so,
or it snows.
Yeah.
Or the tabulator machines work, right?
Right. And so, I mean, it's just, I think that education component is so critical because we're spending so much money trying to convince people about a process that they find confusing, you know?
Totally. And you also have to think about it logically, right? So I always use this example. Say you had to feed your family for the winter, right? Mm-hmm. Would you want to have 45 days to harvest all the food you needed or one day?
Right.
And we want 45 days to harvest those ballots and get those ballots in or collect them. I know people don't like the phrase ballot harvesting, but if we wait till election day, one, we can't deploy all our resources on election day to contact every voter. And the more we get them in, the more we know what our metrics are as to what we need on election day.
I think that is the most important point, Ronna, and this is lost on a lot of voters, but being in the business side of this and dealing with trying to turn voters out in elections across this country, I mean, one of the things that's most valuable is reducing the subjectivity, understanding, as most states, when you have early voter mail-in, they report back ballots. If there's a registration state, you know if they're Republican or Democrat. You can start to reduce the number of people that you're ultimately having to contact, eliminating the waste of resources, redundancy, and all those things. So as people are mailing in these ballots, we're basically conserving resources to make sure that the people who are the lowest propensity but still on our team are
that we
voting.
can get them. And the other thing is, if you hate all the phone calls and you're sick of being nagged, vote, because then we get you off the list, and then we're not going to bug you every day before election day. So the best way to stop getting the spam phone calls and texts is to vote. But
I love that. It's almost there's a little like
it's an incentive there, or we're going to harass you till
we're going to harass.
We will literally harass you till until you get a restraining order. But I will say the protect your vote part of it is so critical too, because we do have a lot of voters who are very concerned, and is my ballot going to be safe, or what's going to happen? So in 2022, the RNC, for the first time in 40 years, we were allowed to do election day operations. We had over 80,000 poll watchers and poll workers. We had 100% coverage in our battleground states of poll watchers. So knowing that somebody's there watching the process, even during the early voting period, right, is so critical to the Bank Your Vote initiative. So go sign up, pledge to bank your vote, and then sign up to be a poll watcher or a poll worker.
Also, from a technical aspect, so I was appointed to the Board of Elections in New York City for
here
a
we
while.
go.
Oh, here we go.
Let me
It's
tell
a
you-
big deal.
Let me tell you the difference between
You got a lot of
people who do-
Republicans across the finish line.
Well, I'll tell you about actually voting. What's important is the difference between people who would cast their vote early, whether it's absentee, as opposed to election day, is there's absolute chaos on election day.
Yeah.
If you want to be worried about your vote counting, I would be far more concerned with things that can happen on election day. If you have ballot machines that mess up, if you have scanners that mess up, if you have a line that's 4 hours long, if anything happens, you have to deal with that. And you had an opportunity weeks before to make sure that your vote was counted. The votes that come in are counted with it's easy. When it comes in, it's done. There's a process. There's no rush. It's not chaotic. It's the best way to ensure your vote counts.
And you have a tracker. In most states, you can't. Nevada, you can track. My daughter's in college last year. I told her, I'm not paying your rent or your tuition unless you send your absentee ballot back to Michigan.
There you go.
And I was dead
good.
serious.
Yeah.
There was no joke in my game. But I sent it to her, or she got it out at BYU, and then she sent it in, and I could tell that it had been voted and tracked, and that it had been logged. My son's here today. I'm going to do the same thing for him. So be ready when you vote this year. You better get it in, or no
Nash is a
tuition.
real pistol. You brought him in here. And
I brought my 18-year-old. I wanted to be him to be around some good influencers.
I'm not sure that you brought him to the right place.
Some good male role models, right? I thought, Nash, I'm going to take you to the height of sophistication.
The Animal
Here in
Fighting
DC.
Podcast.
Well, Nash, you're welcome anytime, pal. I'm not sure your mom's going to like the end result, but come on in.
Sometimes you make some mistakes as a mom. This might go in that.
I love it. All right, so this is you're doing state by state. We're going to be rolling out the website itself, but you're also rolling out. I imagine your database of Republican voters is massive. You're contacting people directly through their emails and whatnot. Like, you got to open these things up.
You got to open them up. I mean, I hear this every day. People are getting inundated by these mail pieces that are coming,
Right.
email, digital, spam, the texting, but we have to engage. And that's part of where door knocking does come into effect too later on. When you do have a ground game and you create people door knocking in their own neighborhood. I used to take Nash in my neighborhood. Hi, I'm Ronna. I live down the street. Our kids go to school together. Can I talk to you about the importance of this election? And that is where that person-to-person connection can make a big difference in efforts like this.
Your neighbors, your local people you trust, and
people you go to church with, people your kids go to school with. The best validator for any voter is talking to somebody they know about that candidate. The best is meeting the candidate, right? Up close and personal. But then, hey, I know this person and they're my friend. And let me tell you, they care about our kids and they understand what's happening in our school district. And that is, in a lot of ways, the best way to influence a vote.
Yeah. No, look, it's very well done. I'm glad you're doing it. Imperative that everybody engage in this. So make sure you open those, because look, we're living in a digital age, where there's a lot of bad actors. There's a lot of people that are trying to take advantage of the system to get to a point where they're constantly spamming people to get somebody to open something. If you see something from the RNC, open that thing.
And look at the paid for at the bottom.
Yeah,
if you get an
exactly.
email, I look at this all the time. People say, oh, help with this or help with that. And then you look at the paid for, and it's some obscure organization with an address in Delaware or something. But if it's not paid for by the Republican National Committee, it's not being sent by the Republican National Committee. That's same with all the candidates. Just get wise as you're giving money, because people will just raise money and profit and not be doing what the donor intended, the investor intended, which is, how do we win this election?
Yeah. Yeah, well, you guys are engaged all of the time.
And all over the place. It's about just one more thing I'd like to add here. it's about more than just the presidential. I'm not trying to undersell the importance of the presidential race, but there are thousands of races all across the country that you guys are playing an instrumental role in making sure that a Republican is not only on the ballot, but also wins the election. And it starts at the top of the ticket, but I don't think people listening really understand how important the RNC is to Republican success in the fall across the map.
Thank you.
And I feel like you guys are doing so much more than just. I'm not trying to. The debates are important. Everything else. Everything
really
on the
fluffing her pillows.
I
Here.
know, it's really good. My son he's going to be so much nicer to his mom.
The reality is the RNC is essential to Republican success. And I just don't think enough people understand
No
that.
question.
I think it is, and especially when you think of it this way. A lot of people focus on TV, and TV's great, and you need it to communicate your message, especially a candidate as they're trying to persuade voters. But not as much is spent on the infrastructure. So we build the road, all the cars drive on our road. If you don't have a road, you can't get to your destination. Things that are unsexy, voter registration, litigation. We're in 50 lawsuits right now. The Bank Your Vote initiative, our engagement community centers in minority communities, where we already have them open in target House districts that are going to be harder to hold in a presidential year in California and New York. These are the types of things, that ground game, that turnout game, that the RNC does that's so instrumental. And I will
just
say
as
this,
simple as like voter file data.
Just voter file
you
data.
know, like
and
think
we
all
give
these
that.
local candidates who
We give it to the candidates.
They might raise $5,000 for their campaign, right? But like having access to that data is a huge leg up for them that they otherwise wouldn't have.
And then it feeds, right? So I always talk about when I was Michigan chair in 2016, but when Trump won Michigan in 2016, we had no statewide ballots, or no statewide offices up, attorney general, governor, nothing. But what I did as Michigan chair is we said, we are going to fill every slot on the ballot. If it's a D+30 congressional district, we're going to recruit somebody, we're going to get their petition signed, and we're going to get them on the ballot. Why?
A serious candidate.
Because it's not just top down, it's bottom up. If they see their friend running for school board, you're going to get 10 more people to come vote because they know somebody, because that slot is filled. So in 2016, 100,000 people left the top of the ticket empty in Michigan. 100,000 people, but they turned out for local races. So that helped President Trump win Michigan just as much as he helped those candidates. It goes both ways. But having a strong ground game and a turnout for every part of the ballot is critical to winning at every level.
Oh, well, these are nuts and bolts stuff.
I love this stuff.
Oh, I know
I'm a
you
total
do.
nerd. I love this
It's
stuff.
critical. It's very important.
So obviously, the RNC becomes the belle of the ball.
Yes.
During a presidential election
Are we the
cycle.
bell, though?
Are you? Are you the bell? I mean,
it's tough right
It's
now.
hard.
It's tough,
It's hard. I mean, you've got an amazing number of very qualified, incredibly gifted candidates out in the field working their tails off.
Yeah, and
with
all of them
teams.
better than Joe Biden by far.
Yeah, totally. And obviously, it is the RNC's role to remain neutral in that contest, but allow for a playing field that everybody can compete. Part of that is hosting debates, and you got a big one coming up.
We have a big one coming up. We're really excited. So we're going to be in Milwaukee in August.
This is very exciting.
It's a great time to be in the Great Lakes, by the way, in the Midwest.
Totally.
August, it's better than being in some of those other
Pure
states.
Michigan.
Yeah, pure Michigan, pure Wisconsin this time. But it's going to be so fun. I'm so excited. The RNC members are going to be there. It's going to be this great big party. We have all these vendors coming from Milwaukee that are going to show their businesses and try and get business for the convention. So it's going to be great. You know what? You guys should come. You know what? I have an idea.
Okay.
I'm going to go low rogue
What
here.
is this idea?
Who should I put on the spot the most? I'm going to go Josh.
Okay.
You guys should come do a show there. You should do like a college game day type thing at the debate.
A college game day at the debate?
Yeah, at the debate.
You mean like at the venue?
I don't know. I might be.
Are you speaking out of turn?
I probably have some staff freaking out right now.
Are you speaking out of turn?
I'm speaking out of turn, but how fun. Like, look at this. Wouldn't that be fun?
A college game day at the debate.
At the debate in Milwaukee.
That'd be amazing.
A ruthless game day.
I'm 100% in for this. I would be there.
I don't need-
100% there.
We don't
like
need,
it?
we don't
100%
need
there.
any consultation. We accept,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
I might need some consultation. I might have jumped the gun there, but I think that'd be so fun.
It would be so great.
You guys could do like, here, I'll produce the show.
Yeah.
You could, like, man on the street, bring like people up.
And you got to be careful what you ask for because we're going to hype people up.
I love that.
I mean,
idea.
we're a hype machine.
That'd
Is
be
what
so
we are.
fun.
It would be.
I love college game day.
Nash,
by the
you
way.
going to go?
Of course.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Nash is going to be
There we
there.
go.
So that's
Nash
all we
could be
need.
a co-host.
Yeah, come on up.
He already has his Ruthless Program shirt.
Yeah, we already got him a shirt. He's all set.
Yeah.
The program.
I mean, this. Yes,
Do you guys
thank
like
you.
that idea?
I thank
100%.
you.
Okay.
That is-
Best idea I've heard.
That's incredible. So we will
See,
be
now
there.
I'm definitely your favorite chair.
Yeah, by far.
In
Rents
the
could
history of
never.
the RNC.
Ryan's could never. Ryan's could never. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Brabus. That is, I can't control her.
Rights will be there, so be careful because he's hosting he's the head of the host committee. So this is a Ronna Reintz production.
Okay, well, so we have to be sort of kind.
Yeah,
to him
and
in the
you should
process.
have him on the show.
Yeah,
We would
no,
love
he
it.
can come on out.
He can come on after me. He can give me.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'll be your headliner.
We have a lot of planning to do, but we will not let
Would
you
you
down.
do that,
We will
honestly?
not let you down. We
I would
will
love for you guys to do that.
We will go out and we will get people more hyped about this debate than any other debate in the history of mankind.
Yeah,
I love it.
Count me in.
Oh, I love it. No,
Okay.
this is great. This is great.
Mike's being quiet. Mike, do you like the idea?
No, I love the
Okay,
idea.
good. All right. I was like,
Yeah, I
all
like
right.
to sing and dance and entertain.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe put together a number or two.
Yeah,
He can. He was a madrigal in high school.
I was.
What is a madrigal?
It's a singer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, show choir.
It's somewhat of a.
I wasn't involved in show choir, so I don't know what
Yeah,
that
no,
is.
no, you actually had friends.
He's the younger brother on the show, so we can do that.
Okay. Okay.
I love show choir. I think that's great.
My understanding is madrigal is a little bit like any sort of choir that you see, just a higher octave, just a little bit, like a
Really?
Like a castrato.
angelic.
Yeah, no.
In,
I had
in many
no
ways.
idea.
It's more like it's more like the Navy SEALs of
Oh.
high school singing.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
It's the top gun.
tactical operator
With a Shakespearean hat.
It's the Top Gun of high school singing.
If we show up in or like a theater squad outside, we're gonna get our asses kicked.
You know what?
understand?
I think if you come with your madrigal outfit
Oh, great
and
idea.
push
This
bank
is-
your vote,
great
bank
idea,
your
huh,
vote.
Ashbrook?
You should push bank your vote. In
I will.
Wisconsin, we got to win Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Now we have our instructions.
Everyone will look.
Ruthless is only invited to the pre-debate college game show or game day
Yeah.
if you wear a madrigal.
Okay. Oh my God, this is unbelievable.
That's
now we
done.
have preconditions.
Otherwise the invitation is
Listen,
rescinded.
she said it's a rule.
That's
So,
the rule.
yeah.
Well,
It's
I
a
mean, that
rule.
makes it pretty easy because it's just a tuxedo.
Oh,
I could go
okay.
full tuxedo.
I
you
love
go.
it.
I'm in full
Would it be a
tuxedo.
Navi tuxedo?
I'm gonna go. I'll probably go powder blue tuxedo, like
love it.
Armani,
like Dumb and Dumber.
Armani doesn't make a blue tuxedo.
Armani would never make a blue.
So
It's like a Napoleon Dynamite type of thing.
It's August 23rd. That's the
August
debate.
23rd in
In Milwaukee.
Let's
In
get as
Milwaukee.
many Ruthless listeners out there for this college
listen,
game day.
you
This
need
is
to-
going to be amazing.
You need
You
to
better
flood
show
the
up.
rink. I can promise you that if you show up to this situation, you're going to have the time of your lives. We
100%.
will absolutely ensure it.
You know what you need? You need those little guns that shoot the
T-shirts.
T-shirt cans?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have those?
No, we'll get them.
We will.
Okay.
We'll get them.
I'm going to keep coming up with ideas for
Wolf,
the
did
show.
you hear that?
T-shirt
T-shirt
cannons?
cannons?
There we
T-shirt
go.
cannons.
Can we do that?
Okay.
Put out the Ruthless shirts.
I feel like you're going to maybe have to have a training session as a former Marine with Smug in terms of how to
Like
operate
small arms and
safely.
mortars, except for T-shirts.
Like not directly at the face.
Yeah, nothing within 10, 15 feet.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
Okay. So, but look, back to thank you, by the way.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Yes.
guys.
That's an
Very,
incredibly
very
generous
kind.
offer, and we will 100% do it.
We'll make it work. All right. I'm going to make sure. I hope Keith is calling RNC headquarters right now.
Yeah, Keith looks like he's shifting his seat a touch.
I'm very excited.
You know, we're not going to embarrass you even a little bit.
Sure.
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe
but
a
that's
lot.
it. That's well, you know,
That's okay.
and we always apologize.
So Keith just said he'll make it happen or he resigns. So that's a team player.
Exactly. That's right. He'll make it happen.
So the debate itself.
Yes.
Obviously, you've got this criteria, which we are on record collectively as a program of saying this was brilliant. This was exactly what the RNC should do. make sure that people have 40,000 donors before they show up. You cannot walk into a presidential election thinking you can compete if you can't raise small dollar
1,000%.
Right?
You can't.
You can't, because it's one thing to say, "Oh, this is unfair. Oh, this is all about money." No, the Democrats are going to trounce you to the point where all of us are at the end being like, "Oh, I wonder why we couldn't compete."
This isn't intended to be a punitive piece of criteria. This is intended to be a building block to success. And if you don't have a small dollar fundraising operation, you cannot beat Joe Biden.
Exactly.
And this is why we put this 40,000 threshold. The Democrats had 65,000, by the way, for their first debate. So we actually took it less. And it has been kind of amazing to see that it's hard for some of these guys to do this. So it's been good for them to learn too. Because I don't think they would have been building it unless we forced them to do it.
You were forcing a culture change.
And I said this a long time. You don't get to the Olympics without passing the prelims, right? Our debate stage is the Olympics. You are running to be president of the United States. I don't want people on who are running for cabinet positions or book deals or media contracts.
Perfect.
So if you are not a legitimate candidate for president of the United States, then you shouldn't be on our stage. And to be legitimate, you need to be at 1% in 3 national polls, not a really high threshold, and 40,000 small dollar donors.
And it's no offense, right?
It's no offense.
The thing is this is just what it takes. This is table stakes.
This is the Olympics of politics. And I do feel like, and I don't disparage any of these candidates, but I don't want people running to build their name ID or get a TV show later. You need to be, if we are going to take time away from our stage, and when you have 9 candidates, remember, in a 90-minute debate, that's less than 10 minutes per person, right?
Yeah.
So we need to be able to hear from these candidates so the voters can make that decision as to who's best to face Joe Biden and win the White House.
Well, my understanding is we already have 6 or 7 that have qualified for the debate. Obviously there's the big question about whether the former president is going to show up. Toys with it. He toyed with it 2 years ago.
He's going to do it till the very end. Like,
ago.
people panic about it, and I'm like very calm about it because I know him.
Yeah.
And listen, his consultants are saying, you're up 40, don't do it.
Yeah.
That's what he's being told, right, by his team. So he may not show up. I think he should, because I think the voters want to hear him debate. And I think it's more than just the primary, which I think those voters deserve to hear from everybody to earn the nomination. But if you end up being the nominee for any of them, why would you forego a 20 million person audience against Joe Biden? I mean, that's going to be
It's also like telling a quarterback who throws the ball 70 yards not to do the long toss. Like, this guy has dominated debates since the moment he showed up in politics.
I have to be neutral on that, but he does. Debates have not been his, shortcoming.
But we've talked about it.
I just can't imagine Donald Trump watching that debate at home. Like, I think he would regret it.
What if he just sat in the audience and watched it?
That would be pretty funny. Well, we
we
now have a game day set up.
You're welcome to
we're going to
anchor the pregame show.
Take questions from the audience.
I'm not doing the debate. I'm going to go do the Ruthless podcast.
Can you imagine the call we'd get from Ronna on that deal?
You would be gone.
Yeah.
You'd be so gone.
We'd be like a
I hope he does the
cup
debate.
and a hat.
Yeah.
I personally hope he does the debate. I talked to my friends and people all across the country. They really want him to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's going to. Yeah. And I think he'll keep us guessing till the very end.
Well, look, that's not your job is to try to provide the forum, which is what you're doing. And you're doing all of this stuff on the ground. You're dealing with candidates up and down the ticket, Senate candidate. You're working with the senatorial committee, the congressional committee. I like how you feel things are going.
I feel really good. I mean, Steve Daines is running the Senate committee this cycle, and Richard Hudson is the congressional committee.
Good partners.
Great partners. This is my 4th go around on this.
Yeah,
I've had
seen
a
it all.
different chair with the Senate committee every time. But they're great teams. They're great to work with. I think we all understand the mission. We have the best Senate map we're going to have probably in the next 12 years.
Yep.
If we can't take the Senate this cycle, we're probably not going to take it.
Yep.
So we have to be all in states like Montana, West Virginia, Ohio, but also Pennsylvania, Nevada. Michigan's going to be an open seat. So I feel very good about the teams that they've put together. We love working together. It's very cohesive, and that should make investors feel good that we're not replicating or competing, that we're actually, instead of having redundancies, we're complementing each other with what we do to maximize turnout for Election Day.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. There's a good working relationship this cycle that is going to produce results. Obviously, it starts with the top of the ticket on
I've
down.
loved them all the chairs. They've all been great. So I've had a great working relationship with all of them.
Look, we may quibble with a few here in the variety program. We may quibble.
I don't. I got along with all of them, but it does change cycle to cycle when they bring their team in.
You're a diplomat.
And like Ronna had said, that this Senate map is a wonderful opportunity. One of the best opportunities we've had in a very long time, but it's also so critical because taking the Senate back is huge when you have people like, Sheldon Whitehouse running the judiciary saying he wants to pack the court and get rid of Supreme Court justice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got to put a stop to all of it.
We got to put a stop to all of it. And if you get a new administration, the only way that you get their people approved is having a Senate. And so, this stuff
Judges are critical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we're not going to have a map like this again. 2022, everybody was shooting for the stars and saying we're going to flip the Senate, which we could have, but it wasn't that map for us as good as this one. I mean, we had 21 seats up in 2022. They had very few. Now they have 23 up, right? Yeah. They have 23 up. This is our best chance.
Having to defend Montana, West Virginia.
Yeah, and the ones we have to defend are Florida and Texas. Those are probably our two most difficult. So we're in a great position to take back the Senate, but we have to invest. And what I will say is 96% of the people who won in 2022 had the most money.
Yeah.
Money matters.
Money matters.
And so when people are like, oh, we didn't win and we didn't this, well, did you invest?
Yeah.
Did you put resources in? Because right now, I think the Democrats are hyped and they're investing, and I think Republicans have got to up their game on investing and getting resources out
100%.
right now. I really do.
You guys are doing a great job of driving a message on that. Like we said, when you get mad, don't write a 5-paragraph essay on Facebook. Give $2.
Exactly.
Give $2
to a candidate you like, whatever. But if you don't care about the candidate in the primary, then invest in whoever gets the nomination, and then invest in the party to build the infrastructure.
Yeah, and I have absolutely no doubt that you're going to be able to bring everybody together here, regardless of the outcome of the nomination fight itself. We have one question. We already asked you your 3.
All right. Yeah, you did do my 3.
We did your 3, but we do have an additional one.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Smash. He's our animal guy.
Okay.
So there's a lot of talk on this show about animals and why people are better than animals, and
people are so much better than animals.
Yeah, and they're after us. I don't know if you've
I'm
noticed.
Allergic to animals. I really am. Nash, this is a true story. Nash one day was like, "Mom, if you die, can we get a dog?"
The post-mortem approval.
He was little. He was like 4. Because I'm deathly allergic to dogs. I can't have dogs. And I was like, yes, Nash, if I die, you can get a dog.
God.
And then he thought for a minute, and he's like, actually, Mom, I'd rather have you. So I ate up the dog.
What a good son. So great. Well, he was testing the waters.
He was.
Wanted to see what's out
He
there.
loves dogs. I do too. I just cannot be anywhere near them.
So you're perfect for this.
No,
okay, go on with the animal question.
So thinking through the animal kingdom, and it runs a full gamut, what is the biggest animal that you feel like you could take out mano a mano?
Bare hands.
Mano a mano.
Bare hands. And you gotta remember, you can do this all within the confines before the allergy fully takes
I
hold.
don't want to kill an animal. I may not be an animal person, but I don't want to kill one.
What about just make it submit? Make it cry uncle.
When we lived in Baltimore, my husband and I, we would literally be watching TV, and mice would just be going all across. We were taking out mice left and right. I mean, he'd be like, "I'm going to lift the couch, and you get the broom, and we're taking that mouse out." So I know I can take a mouse.
So a rodent,
sure. Or any type of rodent.
They're
I don't know, a rat.
A real menace.
They are real menaces.
I feel like a rodent actually is pretty good for the job description that you have now. You're taking out rodents.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh, it's good.
Cleaning it up.
I'm a pest control. I'm not RNC chair. I'm a pest control. That's my new title.
That's your new title. Listen, I can't thank you enough. For people who are following along, obviously you're everywhere. You're on TV all the time. RNC, go to the website.
Yep.
Follow along.
I'm on Facebook. I don't really go on social media all that much, but I should.
Yeah, what's there?
I'm on it, but
it's for fighting.
I don't look at the comments, so don't bother.
Yeah.
Just don't bother.
Yeah. But people can follow along with everything that you're up to.
Yep.
They definitely should follow this Bank Your Vote.
BankYourVote.com. Go to it. pledge to bank your vote, and then we will be sending you updates as we get further and further into the election cycle.
Bankyourvote.com. This is so critical.
Absolutely.
You got to get on it.
And Ruthless is coming to the debate.
Yes!
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Those are the
huge.
there's two big news items that happened today.
Two big news items. I imagine it's going to shock the world.
And that Nash wanted his mom to die so he could.
Nash, you interested in an internship of any kind? I feel like you're.
Get along very great.
I feel like he's got the right stuff.
Yeah,
don't you, fellas?
absolutely.
You know, there's an open chair right there.
He is a good.
Oh, I love it. Ronna, thank you so
Thanks,
much
guys.
for
Thank you
joining
so
us.
much.
Thanks for having
Absolutely.
me.
Boy, she is so good.
And I mean, this is huge.
I like Nash.
I
I like that kid.
He's a good kid.
I like the cut of his jib.
You know what? He's very well mothered.
I mean, that could be like the most consequential guess of being like, you know what? How about College Game Day?
Can you believe that
I mean,
just happened?
Incredible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is huge. We're actively going to begin planning, and this is going to be the biggest show in politics.
So you've got what you're looking at right now with the fellas here, Wolf behind the dais. We're going to be doing a College Game Day setup.
In Milwaukee, August 23rd.
Milwaukee, August 23rd.
Everyone's invited.
For the debate. If you don't show up for that, I don't know what you're doing.
It's
if you
gonna-
can get there, planes, trains, and automobiles, you got to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the ideas we've already begun kicking around the past 30 minutes, this is going to be the greatest show on earth.
Oh,
It's going to be incredible.
I can't wait. I want it to be wild.
Yes, 100%.
Don't you?
We know it.
We want to make sure they never invite us back.
Well, we're well on our way. All right. So, fellas, there's been a lot of talk about the Powerball. We haven't done this in like a year. I don't know that it's gotten this point
huge,
in a
yeah.
year, but a lot of headlines. This one's from Fox Business about the Powerball being over $1 billion. First of all, does anybody play it?
No.
I mean, I might now.
Yeah, maybe tonight.
Yeah. Why not?
You just throw one in?
Why not? Like, whenever, I guess it's like, I'm not a typical Powerball player, but like when it crosses $1 billion,
Yep.
the hell with it.
Do you randomize? I mean,
No,
I've
no,
never done
I
it.
do not randomize. What I'll do is I'll play Michael Duncan's birthday and favorite numbers, and then if I lose, it's his fault.
But that's a great approach. Great approach.
Michael Duncan's birthday.
You play Duncan?
No.
Duncan's mom's coming for you.
She is.
Yeah.
Are you going to play?
I think I might.
Yeah.
I mean, why not, right? I mean, what happens if they call these numbers and they're your numbers?
I mean, I want to go straight to Ashbrook first off. What do? You win the $1 billion.
I'll call my friend from Durris Mutual Funds, and I will tell him. You know, dude, you know what I would do? I would try to win the White House for Republicans.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
I would try to
Ashbrook
win-
enters the field.
I would try to
Him
win
and
the
Bergam.
No.
Gift
I would
cards
be-
are out.
I'd be a major donor,
Okay.
and then I would fish for the rest of my life.
That's not a bad idea.
You'd never see me again.
Is that right? You just like contribute
Never.
to Republican politics
I
and
would
then live in...
I would contribute once to Republican politics, and I'd be sayonara. I would literally fish 7 days a week. I'd probably become a fishing guide, to be honest with you.
That's not bad.
Fascinating. All right. Duncan?
Well, listeners of the show know I've had some issues with travel recently. Stuck in O'Hare for 6 hours and whatnot. I think like every American, especially this summer, has dealt with this in some way. You know, there've been a lot of delays, cancellations, a lot of stuff.
It's been hell.
PJ.
Got to go, PJ.
Yeah.
What an absolute life changer.
It's a superpower. You're like Superman. You can fly anywhere.
Yeah,
anytime.
and it's $1 billion, so I got to think I can find a small private island I can buy with a landing strip.
Plus, you can depreciation on that. You can probably write it
You
off.
write it off
Yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, that probably would be my number one pick, so I got to get creative while Smug thinks of his.
I mean, I think I have the same game plan as always. Is you take the lump sum. I go to a country that doesn't extradite. I think if I get that kind of money, number one, Merrick Garland's going to try to just put me in jail, throw the key away. So I got to get out. You can't extradite. It's probably like Angola or something, right? So then I would just become like a warlord for conservative politics, you know? I'd offer like, conservative ideals, not a handout, a hand up.
See, I think we can
Second Amendment.
I think we can collaborate here because I'm along the same lines. Like the PJs notwithstanding.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
you need that situation. But what I'd like to do with the bulk of it is set up some kind of a remote community.
100%.
Right?
There won't be Kool-Aid, but it's going to be a nice, nice community.
We're not going to make
nice
anybody wear Nikes. We're not going to make anybody drink Kool-Aid. But like a remote community, we're self-governed, where we have traditional values and people take care of themselves. We teach kids like math and science and English and weird things like that.
Yeah.
That seem,
what a crazy idea.
seem to have fallen out of favor here.
Yeah.
And then we have like a dictatorship.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's got to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, also, I was surprised that Duncan didn't say, like, I'd go to Waco, Texas, get a large building, until, like, Janet Reno shows up and burns the place down.
I'd wait for the ATF.
Right for Ruby Ridge.
I'm going to be well armed on the island. Don't you worry. Okay?
What's so funny is like 40 years from now, people will be like, "Whatever happened to that Ruthless Variety program?" And like, I don't know. I saw a headline about this guy named Duncan who like went down to the ATF.
Like, meanwhile in Angola,
we're like, nothing but conga lines. I love that. All right, so did you see this headline? Fantastic. It's a real shitty situation. Human waste leaking from truck causes crashes on Connecticut highway.
Of course, it's in New England.
This is
I'm
an
not surprised.
AP story.
it's
The
surprising.
Associated
You
Press.
think people in Connecticut are used to a shitty place to live. I mean,
Yeah.
how is this happening?
Well, you vote terribly. Although, doesn't Megan live there?
Yeah, Connecticut's a beautiful place.
There are some rare good places.
Yeah.
They have excellent pizza.
Yeah.
What was it? Frank Pepe. They got
New Haven.
Yeah,
They do
New Haven's got
the
great pizza.
The New Haven or the Neapolitan.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the Neapolitan.
No?
We've talked about
Yeah,
this.
we
That's
have.
the floppy stuff.
The clam pizza, excellent, fantastic stuff.
Clam pizza?
You wouldn't think it's good, but hey,
You're right, I wouldn't think it's
phenomenal.
good.
It's phenomenal. But the majority of Connecticut is like, it's just like war torn, and it snows 300 days a year. It's like stunning.
Well, they got like Yale and stuff, right?
I mean, so yes, there are very many bad things there.
Yeah, so you got
Horrible institutions.
You got to deal with shit like that. Anyway, human waste leaking from a tractor trailer on a Connecticut highway caused crashes, including one involving 2 state police cruisers as vehicles spun out of control.
Think how disgusting that must be.
No major injuries were reported Monday night's mayhem on Interstate I-95 in Bridgeport. Troopers arrested the truck driver on several charges, alleging that he knew that the leak was happening while he was driving. The Rex...
He's like, I knew, but who cares?
The Rex
I don't think anybody...
began-
Nobody reported an injury because they didn't want to be associated with the
Dude,
cause.
hold on, listen to this. This is unbelievable. The wrecks began shortly after 11 p.m. when the leaking waste caused extremely slick conditions.
This is disgusting.
In the northbound lane. What?
That's gotta be just disgusting.
Oh,
Do you know how hot asphalt gets?
Jeez,
Why would you say this?
it's like melted
It's
shit.
cooking. It's poop. It's poop soup.
It's the most disgusting
It's
thing.
poop soup. It's probably boiling on the asphalt. Sick.
Dude, hey. Poop soup.
Yeah.
That's just disgusting.
That's like my vision of hell now. Like, that's gotta be the worst thing possible.
You're going to want mud flaps in Connecticut this week, folks, because it's a real problem. This is the worst, though. A motorcycle rider lost control and fell onto the road,
no.
ended up in the hospital with minor injuries.
I mean, that's instantly infected.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're going into a poop soup,
I tell someone, just run me over, dude.
Get him
I'm
in-
not going through this.
Get him antibiotics or he's going to get sepsis.
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's shit.
Yeah.
He's fallen into shit.
He's in
Yeah.
the shit.
But the best part is they're like, he knew it.
Yeah.
How do you prove? How do they know that? Like the guy's like, bop, bop, bop,
Yeah.
bop, bop.
He's like, well, I knew this was happening.
Just driving along, looking back, being like, "What's up?" You know, remember that game? What was the game where you like put oil slicks behind you?
Mario Kart, right?
Mario Kart.
Yeah. It's like that.
It was basically Mario Kart, but with actual
Only
shit.
with shit slips.
And
You would
like,
think
cause the
on a
accident.
motorcycle you'd be able to smell it, though, right? Like,
Well, you're driving pretty fast. You're probably driving pretty fast. If he lays it
You're
down.
blaming the motorcycle.
He lays it down. He probably thinks it's oil, and then all of a sudden he's skinned his elbow. He's skinned the side of his leg, and he's laying there, and he's like, "Wait a minute, that's not oil."
That's poop. That is human waste.
That's soup.
Poop soup.
Honestly, like
which, according to Michael, is now hot.
I think
we're going through a little bit of a heat wave right now.
This is yet another example. Mayor Pete is the shittiest guy to control transportation in the. It's now official. Shittiest.
First it was the rails, then it was the cargo ships, then
Planes.
it was the planes. Now you get
Literal
shit on the freeway.
Like, it could not get shittier. Mayor Pete says, I can make it work.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you. All right. This is actually somewhat of a serious thing because I want help explaining this. U.S. government suspends funding so that Wuhan lab does not receive another dollar over stonewalling COVID probe. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So this is according to the New York Post. The U.S. government has scrapped funding for the controversial Wuhan Institute of Virology, which has long been scrutinized as the possible origin of COVID-19 after the facility didn't fork over documents about safety and security, according to a report. President Biden's White House took action on Monday, according to a memo obtained by Bloomberg News. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I think they sort of skipped a step there.
Wait.
Like admitting that they were funding it maybe would have been the first step before taking credit for no longer giving them money because they won't do the thing we want them to do. Like they wrote it this way. Like New York Post isn't writing this way, but they're promoting this because what they want to do is take credit like they did something great when in fact they were funding it.
After Tom Cotton was a racist.
Right.
That's
for
the thing.
Suggesting that Wuhan Institute of Virology could have played a role.
It's the same group of people who were working with Twitter to boot conservatives who brought up the lab.
Yeah.
Then get in the administration and like, oh shit, turns out it was true. Let's take credit for stopping it.
But not only that, like Rand Paul sat in a congressional hearing with Fauci.
Right there.
Simply asked the
and
question.
he said, are you funding gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology? And he said, no, we are not.
Liar.
And like this went over and over again, and like it became true because we found out little pieces of it. But now the Biden administration is saying we're no longer funding it. And where the fuck is the consequences for Fauci? He went in front of a congressional committee and just bald-faced lied?
That's the thing is he was the highest paid government employee.
Liar.
Exactly.
Yes,
there we go.
thank you. Oh, it's some good board work.
That money, he thinks he's retired and he's like, now I'm safe. Turns out there's no consequences for me lying to everybody. We need clawbacks on his salary. Bring the guy back in front of Congress, throw him in jail.
It literally, look, we can be hyperbolic about this. But in reality, this is a serious thing. When you get government officials who are as responsible as Tony Fauci was for the directives of policy during a pandemic in this country, bald-faced lying to a congressional committee and a member.
And letting everybody call Tom Cotton a racist, letting everybody call Tom Cotton a kook.
They didn't say a peep.
And call Rand Paul a kook just for asking the question. These guys are simply just asking the thing that everybody else was wondering.
Nobody elected Anthony Fauci.
To a single thing.
Right. But I mean, this is sort of par for the course when it comes to people lying in front of Congress. I mean, Clapper got a TV deal. He lied to Congress.
You know, I mean, look,
Fauci's going to have a book deal. He's going to make millions of dollars.
The two systems of justice thing gets played out in the context of Trump. And that's fine.
It's bigger than that.
We can do that. It's much bigger than that. Because we're dealing with people like Clapper, like Fauci, who have been proven to have lied.
Yes.
And I find it impossible to believe that Tony Fauci, who was in charge of this shit, did not know that there were American dollars going to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. That was his job.
Yep.
That was literally his job. So he chose to lie about it. Where's the accountability in that?
Well, the executive branch is just way, way, way too big. It is unaccountable. They just blow off Congress. They lie to Congress, and they don't even care because the media is not going to call them on it. And actually, the Trump campaign laid out over the weekend something that was reported in the New York Times and actually criticized by the New York Times about taking some of the power away from unelected bureaucrats. It's not a novel idea. The Trump campaign is not the only campaign that's pushing for this reduction in the deep state, as some people call it, or sort of like removing some of the power from these people who are unelected and unaccountable to the people in this country who are actually in charge in this country. But I think it's one of the most important things that our next president can do to actually return power to the people and take it away from these guys who are just like making decisions that are they're unaccountable, and when they're called to the carpet, there's no recourse. There's no.
That's the piece. That's the piece.
It.
There is recourse. It's law.
Right.
It is
right.
Statute. It is federal law.
Right.
You cannot, under oath. They all took oath.
They did.
They all sat there and took an oath to swear to their testimony. And then they sat down there and they lied. Bald-faced lied. There's never been a discussion in the press or anywhere else about an investigation into it. Like, I would suspect, if there is a defense for Tony Fauci, it would be that he wasn't aware. Right? I would suspect that. But you would have to launch an investigation to find that out.
100%.
Wouldn't you? You would have to look at the man's emails.
Every email.
Of course, have his discussions. You'd have to do that.
All of the discussion in the mainstream media is about what documents that are in Trump's garage. Fine, he shouldn't have these documents in his garage. But I want to know, what are the documents that Fauci and these others are not revealing?
Fauci lied. People died. That's the difference.
There is so much shit that these guys are not telling people, and nobody in the press is pushing them to reveal it.
Yep.
And it actually does make a difference. It actually does have an impact.
To stop, and it may not come in the form of a health crisis. It may not come in form of a military crisis, but there will be another crisis in this country where some person that you've never met, that you've never heard of, who's an expert in their field, is standing in the White House podium and telling you what it is that they're doing to help solve it on your behalf. That person needs to know that the accountability of telling the truth is certain.
Right.
That the Department of Justice is serious about enforcing congressional testimony and false congressional testimony. They didn't have any problem. And look, I'm no fan of Steve Bannon, but they had no problem sending him up the chain for an indictment on DOJ for not appearing before a Democrat-led committee. They had no problem with that.
Right.
What about Tony Fauci? This is bald-faced. The White House has the audacity, has the audacity to announce that they're suspending funding that somehow never existed? Come on. Dude, like, are we seriously not connecting dots? Like, I feel like Rand is probably the only person that's told. I'm gonna call them after this.
Yeah, we should.
Because
we should.
I literally can't believe that this situation has escaped our memory hole.
Yeah. When it's all these problems, schools being closed, people dying, businesses being closed, children not developing when they should be able to have these basic skills, everything, all of that. And it comes down to this.
How about the fact that during this administration, they released a compilation document of all the intelligence agencies, the CIA, the DIA, all of the FBI, and all of this stuff. And their conclusion was, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We don't know. We don't know where it came from. And the FBI very quickly, Ray came out and he was on Fox News with Brett Baer and he was like, we know. It was China and the Virology Institute.
Right.
Like, we got it. And they distanced them. And that was like a one-day news cycle.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you've got the rest of the intelligence agencies in the United States basically saying like, I don't know. It comes, colds come and go. And meanwhile, there are like literally tens of millions of people who died as a result of this.
And lost their businesses, so lost their livelihoods, and their kids are not. It was one of the greatest problems that our government has ever laid upon the people of this country.
And all you needed to do was transparency.
Right.
Nobody was saying you have to have all the answers. It's a once in 100-year development.
Right.
Nobody's saying like you need to be the expert and save me from everything.
Right.
All you need to do is say, tell me what you know.
Right.
And then on the heels of 20 years earlier, China had lied about avian bird flu. There was a precedent for this. There was a precedent for this.
There was. And like it took us 1 year plus to be like, oh, COVID-19, COVID's flu, COVID, it comes from different interactions with animals. It turns out it is like the flu. It's a little bit more aggressive and it kills people, and then it mutates and does all these other things. Like, have that conversation. Meanwhile, this guy's going before Congress saying,
yeah, we
never did it.
Yeah, we didn't fund it. And
never did it.
And then the White House says, oh, we just suspended the funding. But, oh, well.
Suspended the funding that never happened.
It's incredible.
It drives me insane.
And you wonder why nobody trusts an institution in this country.
Bingo.
They're ruining it. This is ruining it. They complain all the time. The mainstream media and all of the shit complains all the time about how everybody distrusts every institution and about how people don't have faith and trust in elections. And like objective fact is not agreed upon any longer in this country.
Right.
Very difficult to come to that conclusion without also observing the fact that the guy you held on a pedestal who had Brad Pitt portraying him on Saturday Night Live is somehow lying bald-faced to the American people.
Well, and it also, you mentioned the media, it also came on the heels of a multi-year hoax on Russia collusion.
Bingo, yeah.
I mean, dude, they have done so much damage to trust in this country, and like the thing that burns me the most is that they have the audacity to hire these people who they claim are disinformation reporters when they are the ones who have spent years spreading it. They haven't apologized to anybody and said, you know what, we're sorry about that, we're moving in a different direction.
Their goal, by the way, when they say they're disinformation reporters, we're focused on like big tech. Let's focus on let's focus on actually what their problem was.
Right.
Their problem was that big tech provided a platform for you.
Yep.
For you.
Right.
To ask questions, say, I don't understand. There's a bunch of COVID things. There's a bunch of coronaviruses that have been around since the beginning of time that we treat with a seasonal flu shot. How is this different? Banned.
Yeah.
Gone.
Because the government was talking to those tech companies, behind the American people's back, saying you need to take this person's post down.
Exactly. Like look, this is the root of if you're going to get to a point where we can get this country back on track, this is the shit that needs to get back on track. And I'm telling Republicans as much as I am Democrats. Democrats, I know what they do. They'll do anything for power. They'll say anything. They'll do it, protect their own, whatever. God willing, Republicans get back into power, tell the fucking truth. Tell the truth. Be as transparent as possible. There's partisan edges everywhere that you can work through. But honestly, if the American people have the full vision of what's happening in this country, conservatives are going to win.
100%.
They're going to win.
100%.
Oh, man.
And if there's a media outlet being a dishonest broker, don't talk to them. You really don't need to, because you can just tweet out what you're doing. If you're being transparent, you don't need a filter. And so if there's a dishonest filter, don't talk to them.
And also in a media landscape where the Ruthless Variety program is doing college game day in front of the Republican national debate,
right?
You got places to go.
Right.
100%.
You got places to go. All right, fellas, let's play King of the Hill.
Let's play King of the Hill.
Well, I have the defending champion, Steve Schmidt.
I've been knocked off, so I'm bailiff.
I'm the judge.
And who are you bringing to the table, Ashbrook?
Cherry Jacobus.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, this is a big one.
Great pick.
Okay, well, let's go ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for King of the Hill. In the red corner, fighting out of her own Twitter account in a bid to retain her crown, Commie Cherry Jacobus. And now, in the blue corner, fighting from his back porch in Utah, and current champion of the world, the old hot man, Steve Schmidt.
Oh, it's so good.
Gotta love it.
Now, in the interest of serving this court,
that's right.
I have not had an opportunity to be bailiff before, but I am interested in having a forthright, transparent rule of law court.
100%.
I had observed some transactions here before this game has begun. That I believe there was a sharing of information. I'd like full disclosure of that. If it's disclosed to the court, it's up to the judge to rule on how you'd like to proceed. But I just want our audience to know.
It sounds like fake news.
I'd like to launch a formal objection here.
Okay.
It sounds like fake news.
In the production, and I would like to point out that the current judge and jury told me if I brought this up that he would guarantee I lose. I don't care.
This is more fake news.
Because I think our listeners deserve the truth, and so I'm going to give it to them right now. Twitter's gotten a little bit more difficult in accessing the tweets of people who've blocked you, which a lot of people have blocked us now.
It turns out we're blocked by a lot.
We're doing this.
They don't like King of the Hill.
And Ashbrook had a little bit of a boomer moment when he was trying to find tweets and couldn't get them. And so Smug assisted him with his phone. Fine. I was fine with that. But then Ashbrook was passing the phone back to Smug to screenshot the tweets so then he could use them in the game. And so I just want to make sure
he had a preview of one of the potential plays.
But these are more live. They weren't screenshots.
Did it prejudice?
I just texted the link to Ashbrook.
Did it prejudice the judge?
It absolutely did not. But
because you've now
my
seen
only role here is to ensure that transparency is observed. It is up to the judge and the jury to make a ruling.
I'm going to be completely honest. At the time,
I speak, Your Honor?
Give me 1 second. So all I did was I sent him the links. I was drinking. I didn't even read them. I typically don't read.
Drinking. The
judge remains.
I can't even read.
We do know you don't
unbiased.
read. Yeah,
Your Honor, may I speak?
Please.
I understand my counsel's concern here.
He's already ruled on your behalf.
Yeah, I know. He just has to.
I understand.
Just take the win.
I understand counsel's concern, and I will take the win.
All right.
Okay.
Wonderful.
The judge. Here's the thing. There are 3 tweets to be played. It hasn't changed. He was literally helping me with from A to B.
Just send it a link.
And he's a very generous, fair judge.
Okay, let's have the champion have the floor.
That's
here
right.
now again. As champion, I get to go first in round 1. What should I play? Okay.
Go ahead and read it now.
What number is it for
Wolf? I'm going to go
like
number.
to instruct the counsel to proceed.
Yeah.
I'm going to go number 2, please, Wolf. Steve Schmidt.
The face.
Yeah, it's great. He's got a show now or on YouTube, and so he does these tweets a lot. And as you've seen, he's retweeted himself again. That's sort of how he sort of farms engagement on these things. But he says, Ron DeSantis's fall off the edge of the cliff will be remembered for the rest of political eternity as one of the worst political endeavors and campaigns in American history.
Oh, my God.
DeSantis' embarrassing and floundering campaign is over. Now, let me tell you why I love this tweet. Steve Schmidt ran John McCain's campaign in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
A campaign that was embarrassing and floundering for a number of months, polling in the teens. Remember, they had to fire everybody and had this whole campaign reset?
Sure.
So for this guy to sit there and prognosticate that the guy who's polling number 2 in the 30s and in the 20s has a floundering campaign that is embarrassing and over is a hilarious lack of self-awareness.
That is a really good point. That's a great point.
That's my submission.
Ashbrook, you better have some good.
Okay, Lee, let's put up exhibit number 4, please. This is a tweet from Cherry Jacobus.
God, she's something else, huh?
So good.
And Cherry writes, Trump is running for POTUS to avoid prison. But it also forced the weak Merrick Garland to appoint a special counsel who is doing the job Garland was supposed to do, but would not.
He's got real hard on there.
For Merrick, yeah.
And while it may be too late, I thank heavens for the January 6th committee and for Jack Smith. So what I would like to point out here is that Cherry Jacobus claims to be a former Republican, and she thinks that Merrick Garland is not favorable enough to the Democrats' point of view and is not hard enough on President Trump. And only Jack Smith is hard enough on President
I'd like
Trump.
to limit the arguments at that point.
I
and
agree.
Go to the judge.
I agree totally. I mean, this is another example of just, a microwave take from Cherry Jacobus. The reason we laughed about the Merrick Garland thing is because we've heard it 100 times.
Yeah, it's a kind of weak brew.
Super weak. First round goes to Duncan.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. You better bring something good, Ashbrook, because, man, that was just terrible.
Okay, Lee.
I mean, she said Merrick Garland tried to kill her.
I mean, that's a better take.
That was a better one.
Way better take.
Yeah.
Like, this lady's got stuff.
Lee, I would like to present to the court exhibit number 6, please. This is from Cherry Jacobus. It's titled "A Helpful Guide." And the helpful guide from Cherry Jacobus reads: Prosecco 90 calories, dry Riesling 115 to 120 calories, Sauvignon Blanc.
Doug, do we have to read all
120 calories? We sure do, counsel. Chardonnay 120 calories, Pinot Grigio 120 to 125 calories, Pinot Noir 120 calories, Cabernet Sauvignon 120 to 125 calories, and Brut Champagne, last but not least, 125 calories.
Did she have one of each before she wrote this?
The best part is that's it.
Yeah.
It's not like a
No
response.
commentary on anything.
That's the tweet.
Helpful guy.
I mean, I love this. I mean, this is just incredible. Incredible. Because, we've had this theory of, okay, she talks about cats. And this goes with the whole, she's just drinking wine with these crazy cats, dropping fire takes. And this, just helpful guide. Do you know roughly what time it was?
Your Honor, this was done at 6:06 p.m.
Oh, right in the
This
hand.
is
right in the breadbasket.
She's like, I'm going to keep it healthy. It's just 2 bottles of Prosecco.
Your Honor, one of the associates at my firm called it the Lib Lady Food Pyramid.
Okay.
That is well.
That's going to be tough.
Well
That's
played.
So good.
Wolf, let's go to 1. Steve Schmidt, this is one of the few tweets that he didn't RT himself, although he wrote a lot of other ones about the same topic. He does that as well. He sort of repeats himself in his timeline a lot. Steve Schmidt writes, as it stands today, the Republican field has 3 contenders in it. They are Trump, Christie, and Scott. More on the profound disconnect between the race that is developing and the one that is being covered. Which I love this. And the reason why I love it, similarly to the reason I love the other one, and this is a guy who's a never Trump Republican, worked closely with the Lincoln Project, obviously one of the founding members and all that sort of stuff. I also recently completed that documentary, finally. It's hilarious. I highly recommend people check it out. But, there is nobody more scared of the idea that Ron DeSantis might actually beat Donald Trump than the Lincoln Project people.
Yeah.
And so they're bending over backwards here to sort of erase him from the conversation, even though the guy raised $150 million and is polling number 2 in the primary. The guy's just embarrassing himself.
I mean, it's an okay take, but man, the lib food pyramid.
Wine mom food pyramid.
You can't beat that. Round 2, that's Cherry Jacobus. Outstanding.
I was smart. I was smart to throw away my weakest take.
Although I did like one thing you didn't mention for our audio listeners only is the Dewey defeats Truman.
Yeah, sort of apropos of nothing.
I don't understand how it fits in there.
Well, I think you got to subscribe to his YouTube to learn more. I don't know.
More, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Wolf. Let's go to number 3. It's another video post here. Steve Schmidt writes, why have President Biden and the Democrat Party been unable to break the demagogic and autocratic fever of the MAGA movement after being in charge for 4 years? This is my favorite part. This is the best part. As a Biden supporter, Team Biden needs an answer to this question if they are going to defeat Trump and fend off a challenge from No Labels.
Oh, my God. Amazing.
Okay, so this is funny for a number of reasons.
Yeah. Walk us
Number
through.
1, this guy who's supposed to be the principal conservative announces that he is a Biden supporter in 2024. half
regardless.
Half of the Democratic Party isn't a Biden supporter in 2024.
But like also Asa Hutchinson could be the nominee, and this guy would be like,
right,
no, Biden.
as a Biden supporter.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, the fucking audacity of this guy to think that Joe Biden and his team owe him an answer. Him as a Biden supporter. Him, the never Trump guy who made all this money from Democratic donors, putting up ads against Republicans. Like, dude, you're on the take. You're fine. We don't need to fucking answer you. And then number three, the absolute brainworms to suggest the real problem here is you're going to have to fend off a tough challenge from No Labels. It's just the trifecta.
The No Labels reference is
just
incredible.
Oh.
So good.
Okay, Lee, please put up exhibit number 5. So what you'll see here, Your Honor, is it's an unheard of bot account, Naughtiest Maximus, who is, and I'll just describe this in consistency.
So their
with the
Twitter
court.
handle is Resistor Dude.
Classic.
At Resistor Dude.
As bailiff, I'll remind you of the rules that it is not to be read word for word, but rather summarized and characterized in counsel's best views, not exceeding the word limit that is in the tweet itself.
Thank you, bailiff. I will strive.
That's fair, yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will strive to do that. So what Naughtiest Maximus is looking to do here is point out to their Twitter audience that Jack Smith should hold President Trump without bond.
Put him in prison.
When he shows up for his booking.
Okay.
And Naughtiest Maximus points out that that's what was done for the January 6th rioters, and that same thing should be done to President Donald Trump. Okay, that's what this person.
Okay.
I've not heard this.
Well, we are now in
Okay.
excess of the word limit.
So then what does Sherry say? For our listeners who don't see it on YouTube.
Sherry said, "This is the most important tweet of the day, bar none." Yeah. Period. There are a lot of tweets that go out during a day. 10,
there could be
15 million.
As bailiff, I feel compelled to also inform our audio-only listeners that the tweet handle itself is at Resistor Dude.
I mean, you cannot. Yeah. This is hilarious on multiple levels. The whole thing of this is the most important tweet of the day, bar none. Resistor Dude, take it away. Lock him up.
Can I?
No bail.
For the assistance of the court, I believe that it is important that we do have some kind of indication, albeit, rough, what Resistor Dude following is to know just...
Are we all working on Ashbrook's team now?
No, I want to know how...
I thought that was his job.
This actually falls into your favor. Resistor Dude is a very formidable liberal account that has 27,000 followers.
Would you please read how many people Resistor Dude is following?
19,000 followers.
Yeah, you see that a lot with the blue wave emoji people.
Yeah.
They're big in the follow back.
Would you please read the description of Resistor Dude?
Okay, are we just...
I'll allow
Your Honor.
I will allow it. I'll allow it.
Okay.
This guy just filibusters the whole thing.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
I will
Keep
take
saying I'm cheating, Duncan. I'll allow this.
Well, if he allows it, then
do.
I'll read it. I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Hashtag send Putin back to hell. and then the next one is
Sanskrit.
Okay.
I believe it's Arabic.
Are we evaluating his tweet or Sherry Jacobus?
I think that
this
the
is off
judge,
the rails.
he can speak for himself, but I think the judge wanted to know just how obscure Naughtiest Maximus actually
I read a tweet and he got to read War and Peace now. So
I think given all this information, it's become very clear. Ashbrook's the winner here.
That's ridiculous.
That's an incredible tweet.
That is
Thank you, Your Honor.
ridiculous. That was the
I
weakest
think Duncan
brew.
deserves punishment
500 people said that.
deserves punishment.
for these lies.
It's just
about the court.
unbelievable. That is just ridiculous.
It's not only the winner, but it doesn't deserve
I was
punishment.
completely fucking robbed.
No
My
bail
tweet
for
was
Duncan.
1,000 times better than
No
that.
bill for Duncan.
Every lib on Twitter was saying, hold him in jail.
Great
Unbelievable.
take. Ashbrook,
He
congratulations
said
on
got
the
to
win.
fend off a challenge from no labels, and you guys are like, nah, not good enough.
Ashbrook, do you have any like
Just
advice for Duncan on
unbelievable.
how to win?
Better luck next time.
Okay, I guess when you have the whole court are your co-counsels.
Order.
Fucking ridiculous.
Order.
I thought we were going to get a forensic reenactment of the tweet from you two over here.
Well, we were simply providing the audience with the full context.
Sure.
I want to apologize on behalf of Michael Duncan for being a sore loser.
I know
Audience doesn't deserve
T-Rec will have my back.
All right, so we got to go to this interview, fellas. This is a great one. You are not going to want to miss it. Bernie Moreno. I want to welcome to the program a good friend. He's been here before. You've heard him before. We had a good time last time, although it was video. Now you're here in person. Ohio Senate candidate Bernie Moreno. How are you, sir?
Great. Thank you for having me. My wife is, I'm going to confess this right up front, she's the bigger fan. I know that's a mean thing to say.
She's also your better half, and it's not even close.
Oh, no question. But I just want to know that sometimes I wake up to your voices. It's slightly disturbing as my wife is listening to your show. So
Okay, good.
No,
I'm glad to hear
my
that.
wife agrees. You know,
but she wakes you up to your voice on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm waking up to your voices just not by choice.
His wife has never listened to the show. Neither is mine.
Really?
Yeah,
No.
no.
Wow.
They don't
wow,
care
wow.
for our voices.
Well, my wife's available for training if you want. Train your spouses on how to listen to the show, how to get it,
that
understand
right?
the humor, dissect it a little bit.
that right?
Absolutely. She's willing to do that.
Like a 10-part class or
Absolutely.
something?
That is
Maybe a
helpful.
master class.
We can do that via Zoom.
Okay. That can be done.
Or you guys can come to Ohio, by the way, the greatest state in America.
No.
You know, of course, you know that, John.
Amen.
Right? Absolutely.
Amen.
Amen.
Often overlooked, though. Often overlooked.
Well, this is his
the East
favorite
Coast.
thing.
Yeah.
Is this part of your deal too? Is it like when you're from Ohio, you constantly have to talk about how aggrieved you are?
It's the Notre Dame version of states, right? You know what I mean? Somebody went to Notre Dame. They always tell you they went to Notre Dame. And if you're from Ohio, you always have to say how great Ohio is. It's just part of the shtick.
But I think, like, you know, when you're talking about the United States Senate in control here in 2024, I feel like everyone's talking West Virginia, they're talking Montana, and sometimes they're sort of forgetting what a huge Senate race we have in Ohio.
Huge.
And you know, this is a race we can clearly win.
Right. 70, here's the reality. Sherrod Brown has been there his whole entire life. He's the one guy in America who's only been a public elected official, never had a job outside of doing that.
Right.
Been there way too long.
Yeah.
Control of the U.S. Senate really does ride through Ohio. We have 7 media markets, very expensive, 7th largest state in the country. I mean, obviously Montana and West Virginia are important, but they're much smaller states.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you are just kind of getting into politics. You threw your hat in the ring for a while in 22, took a look at it, decided you were going to make endorsements. You wanted to work for the better of the Republican Party and our candidates there. We got over the finish line, obviously. You decided now's a good time to jump back in. You're part of a primary that, look, it's going to be a tough primary, but we're in a good spot to pick this up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what we want to do, what I'm working to avoid, is spending a lot of money in this primary, making it ruthless primary where we attack each other. I'm not going to attack my opponents in the primary. They're both very, very nice guys. But the reality is we need people who are outsiders to come in here, people who've created businesses, know what it's like to be accountable. Replacing a career politician like Sherrod Brown with another career politician isn't exactly the right recipe in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a superpower in D.C. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Because you don't see my cape. My superpower is that I wasn't born in America, as you know. I can never be president of the United States.
Isn't that
I'll be the
something?
one senator
Who can't look in the mirror and see a president.
And so as a result, don't care about taking credit. Don't care about how it affects my career, because my career will end when my Senate career ends. And I think that allows me to really drive the waters of D.C. very differently than somebody who's thinking, what's my next committee assignment? How does this play in Iowa? Does this help me in New Hampshire?
Yeah.
I don't have any of that. I'm free to liberate.
Well, it's a fascinating perspective. It's an interesting part of your message. For those of you who have not listened for the last 2+ years to the Ruthless Variety program. Give us a little background.
Sure, I'll give you Bernie in 60 seconds.
Yeah, let's do it.
Born in South America, moved to the U.S., to South Florida, where all of us go to get sorted. That's where we ended up. I ended up going to Michigan. I know, John, sorry about that. But if you're a Hispanic kid growing up in South Florida and you want to run General Motors, that's where you go to school. Went to work for Saturn Corporation when I was a kid. Met a car dealer in Boston who said, hey, come run one of my dealerships. I'd never worked in a dealership in my life. Took that dealership over, became very successful, eventually became the vice president of that company. 18 years ago, get a call, said, hey, we've got the worst dealership in the country. It's in North Olmsted. I said, where's that? It said, doesn't matter. It's the worst dealership in America. Sells 4 cars a month, loses a ton of money. We'd like you to buy it. I said, with that sales pitch, you would turn that deal down. But proof I have a great wife, by the way, which is I sold every possession I had in my life. And when I tell you that, not exaggerating, every possession I had in my life to buy this little dealership.
That's a risk.
My mom let me mortgage her home as long as the mortgage was in my name. Then charged me a VIG. So smart. Yeah, she charged me a 5% VIG.
So good.
My sister lent me her kids' college tuition money in May, as long as I paid her back by September. That's how I started that dealership.
No way.
These folks had some faith in you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that dealership went from selling 4 cars a month to 80 in our first month, eventually became the largest seller of luxury automobiles anywhere in the Midwest.
Wow.
20,000 cars a year, 15 locations, 30 brands, $1 billion in revenue. And then started a tech company because that's what you do when you're a car dealer. It's the next obvious step, right? Right? And that tech company sold technology to states to revolutionize their titling system. Jim Justice was our first client.
Oh, nice. Really?
Yeah, West Virginia is
a potential colleague.
The absolute leader in BMV technology. I sold that business about 5 or 6 weeks ago because I do believe that when you come to D.C., you shouldn't have conflicts of interest. And that would be a big one, right? I'm selling systems to state governments. But when the company goes public and does $1 billion plus IPO, I will both cheer and cry because I sold my shares. So this better work, right?
Your family's like, hey, thanks.
Hey, thanks a lot, Dad.
Thanks, Dad. That was great. Here's for looking out.
Yeah, exactly. They'll have a what could have been. But, the reality is our country's going off a cliff. Let's just be honest about it. And it's career politicians, people who come down here, it's not to serve the country. It's really to serve themselves. And I want to change that. I want to lead a movement of people where we think about D.C. as this is where the most accomplished Americans come to serve their country.
That's the way it always used to be. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it needs to be again in order for us to turn this whole thing around.
Exactly.
That's exactly the point of view that I think we need to embrace more.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you this. You get into the, I mean, look, you know now what politics looks like. You've been a part of the scene here for a little bit. It's obviously an ugly business. Right? I mean, anything you've ever done, anything you've ever said, stuff that's not even controversial becomes controversial. You're now in the midst of it. It didn't shy you away from running again?
No, because the cause is too great. Yeah. At the end of the day, this country means everything in the world to me. My parents could have taken me anywhere else on earth. I would never have accomplished what I did here anywhere else. My story is not unique to it's a uniquely American story, but it is the place where this kind of stuff can happen, where you can start with nothing and create something. And we got to fight for that. And the reality is I have 4 kids, 1 grandkid, 2 on the way. And this is about giving them the country in better shape than when I got here.
Yeah.
And I'm not prepared to look at our kids and your kids and say, hey, listen, sorry. We had a great ride, man. America was amazing. Sorry. Yeah. We're turning over to bankrupt and a mess. That's what we're fighting for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you started hot.
Yeah, that's a damn good elevator speech you had me.
Started hot.
I got the coveted smug endorsement. Sounds like.
Listen, he's easy. He's easy. He's easy.
But not cheap. I just want to make sure you can't be both.
But along those lines, you've already gotten some significant endorsements.
Yes, we have. We got Charlie Kirk. He's only endorsed a couple senators, me and Lee Banks. We got Rick Grinnell, we got Takash Patel, we got, of course, most importantly, J.D. Vance, most importantly because obviously he's the other senator in Ohio. So we're feeling really good about that. J.D. doesn't want me to go through what he went through. It was a $70 million primary.
That was a big one.
Crazy. Yeah. Crazy amount of money spent for no reason. So we're feeling pretty good about it.
And again, that's a great example. Is I've brought this up before, is you see candidates who are team players. And the fact that you saw that he's got that, you stepped out, tried to help make sure he wins, got him across the finish line, and that's how a team works.
Yeah,
that's how everyone wins together.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he had me do a few speeches for him up in Northwest Ohio, where it was hard for him to get to. You couldn't get everywhere, and there was a lot of angst out there because he went through this competitive primary, right? So there was a lot of people at the beginning of the room when you're working a room and tell me kind of what are people's minds. They'd say, "Oh, we don't like JD, etc." I do. I know him. He's a friend. So I would start the speeches by saying, hey, just to be clear, he wasn't my first choice either.
I love it.
But here we are, and he's going to be a great senator, which he has been. We got to get support behind him. Tim Ryan would be an abject disaster, and he's doing a great job. I'm very proud of JD.
Yeah, no, he is doing a great job. Plus, look, you venture into Browns country. Not everybody's going to endorse that situation. You got to carry the water there.
Well, it's we all have to do our part.
Bernie, you're from the northern part of the state, and Sherrod Brown is from the northern part of the state. You've got great endorsement here from J.D. Vance, who's from the southern part of the state. But I wonder if you could walk our audience through how you plan to win over the southern part of the state in this. I mean, obviously you got a primary, but looking forward to the general. How do you get those southern Ohio voters into the box? Traditionally, this is
because Sherrod Brown's been a tough out,
but Sherrod Brown has been a very, very tough out.
Yeah, no question. So my wife and I moved to Columbus. Geographically, a lot easier to travel the state than going from Cleveland. So we live in Columbus now. Cincinnati's an hour and a half away. I actually built a dealership in the Cincinnati market, so I know people down there. And the answer is you just got to get out there. We've traveled 1,500, 2,000 miles a week all over Ohio. The endorsements that we just announced were 120 plus endorsements from all over the state.
Wow.
So we're really working hard. I am fully unemployed, looking for government work, by the way. So this allows me to do this full time. So I'm not encumbered by a taxpayer-funded salary that I can rely on and have to somewhat pay attention to, not to knock my two opponents, but to knock my two opponents. But so this allows me to go out and spend 7 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night every single day, which is what we do. I mean, we work really hard. Nobody's going to outwork me.
And meeting everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you also raised a lot of money.
We did, and by the way, set a record for fundraising from Ohio donors in 1 quarter. Really proud of that. Most of our money came from Ohio. So somebody hears you and you give your pitch and they write you a check. That's the best kind of endorsement you can get, right? So for us to break that record, my opponent, God bless him, was born right. He's put in $4 million into his campaign, and after 6 months, got $3.8 million on hand. That's not great math.
That's his Dolan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
Not great math, because that means that you are burning more than you are getting from donors. You can't sustain that unless you're the federal government.
Is he already running TV ads?
Not really. No. So this is just operations.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we'll put in whatever money we need to. But, everybody asked me that question. I said, I do know how to play poker. I can answer that question. But, I'm in this to win it. This isn't something I'm doing as a fun exercise because it's not the natural
Well,
thing
you wouldn't
to
do it after you got a taste of it unless you really wanted to do it.
Yeah, as I say, it is a soul-sucking process.
It is, right?
But like I said, the cause is there. I mean, you're either called to something or you're not. There's times when I wonder, should I be spending time with my kids and my grandkids? This country's given me so many blessings. But then I go right back to it, which is if we don't, each of us get in the fight in our own way, by the way, we do have to put the oar in the water harder. This is a great country. It's worth fighting for. There's no greater cause.
Yeah. Do you find, because you dipped your toe in last cycle and you went around and met a whole lot of people, now that you're meeting everybody for second, third, fourth time, you now have a relationship that you're developing across the state when, you're starting flat-footed, particularly for a Senate race. I think it's different for almost any other race. But for a Senate race, people are always a little skeptical first time they meet you.
Yeah, who the heck are you?
Yeah.
And why should I vote for you, let alone write you a check? So that's why we were able to raise a record amount of money from Ohio, is that people now know me. They know what I'm about. They've gotten a chance to hear me. So I think when we do that, I think we're going to be very successful. I think we're going to win. By the way, your minions should know we're going to win. We will get this country back in 2025. We will have a conservative government. We'll have the House. We'll have the Senate. We'll have the White House. And we're going to get stuff done. We can't make any more excuses. We can't be in power and say, oh, yeah, but we don't have a filibuster-proof majority. No. Baloney. We have seen that the left delivered for their extremist base. We have to show America what it's like to live under a conservative government, which means more freedom, more liberties, a growing, prosperous economy. We got to do that. We will do that.
What would be the first thing you'd want to tackle in Washington?
We got to fix the border. We got to fix the border. I mean, it's extraordinarily offensive to somebody like me who came here legally, followed the process. 13 years to become a citizen. It was one of the greatest days of my life to be able to be sworn in as a U.S. citizen. It should be a high standard.
How old are you, by the way?
18.
18?
Wow. Yep.
So you were like fully just, well, I mean, it's hard to say. An 18-year-old, you're still a kid, but you're an adult. So you have full memory. I mean, that must be like
I remember
one
like
of the
it was
moments
2
other
minutes
than
ago.
your wedding day and the birth of your children. Like, that's kind of the thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this is the greatest honor, right?
Yeah.
It should be an honor. So when you see people crossing our border and being rewarded who are breaking our laws, it's a kick in the gut.
Yeah.
And the reality is, as you know, this can be fixed. We have to make it very simple. If you cross our border illegally, you forfeit your right for asylum. That shouldn't be controversial. Mexico has got to play ball. We have to give them a choice. Colombia was provided a choice when we were under narco attack. You are our largest trading partner for legal goods. You're also our largest trading partner for illegal goods. Which one would you like to be?
Yeah.
Right? And you give them that choice. Colombia made the choice, wiped out the drug cartels there. We have to do the same thing with Mexico and work with them as a partner. We want Mexico to be a strong democracy that's a good partner for America, but they can't do that and allow what's going on there.
Related to the border, do you hear a lot? I'm curious, sort of, on the ground in Ohio, because I know Ohio has been devastated by the fentanyl crisis. Do you hear that a lot on the ground when you talk to voters?
Yeah, sadly, we're in a situation where we're 1 or 2 degrees apart from knowing somebody personally who died of fentanyl, which is pretty remarkable. To be in that situation, it's devastating. They understand that this border has made us a border state, a border town. We have to take care of that situation. So that's job one. And by the way, it can be done quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, your candidacy is interesting for a lot of reasons. One is obviously your previous experience in 2022, but also the way you've approached this one. You're reaching out to every segment of the Republican Party. Generally speaking, in modern days, people they try to like pigeonhole themselves who they are, basically. And you've basically said everybody within the party is within my purview. I'm going to meet with everybody and talk with everybody. What do you think that like? What's the benefit of that?
We got to be all aboard. We got to be all aboard. We put out these endorsements, and it was kind of funny. I got a call. This guy's a rhino. He's an establishment hack, right? And then the next phone call. That guy's a crazy conspiracy theorist. And my team goes, "Oh my God, what are you thinking about this?" I said, "Mission accomplished." We need everybody uncomfortably on board.
Yeah.
And the reality is, we're not the enemy. The enemy is these extreme far left people who have a different vision for the country. And if we can kick each other all day long, but at the end of the day, that doesn't win elections. Look at the Democrats. They have objectively the worst human that you could possibly pick for to be president of the United States, right? But they've all lined up behind him. And we will absolutely kill each other until the last moment on the convention floor, right? There'll be one guy left as the janitor's cleaning up signs going, but this guy shouldn't win, right? And the Democrats are all lined up behind
We're
Biden.
competitive like
that.
They're very socialist.
And by the way, I shouldn't say this because I'm trying to reform the name Bernie, but Joe Biden will become Weekend at Bernie's pretty soon, right? They're going to wheel this guy out, right? There's going to be a string, the guy waving, the head flopping. All right, take him back, right? And then all these lunatics, which is what he has in his administration, are going to do destructive policies in America, which is, that's where really the power is these people who you don't know who are making terrible decisions about how to run our country. Although clearer once we understood the cocaine situation, right? Clearer. Now it makes a lot more sense, honestly, right?
I mean, look, a guy from Colombia, he knows it when he sees it, right?
Oh, man, there we go.
Oh my God! What do we have here?
So we are very good in Colombia about growing different things, as you know. A lot of crops. We're really fertile there, but we are also known. I know you guys are all bourbon guys, right?
Yeah.
Very, very fancy bourbon
reform
guys.
us right here.
I'm going to reform you. So this is called. You got to say it properly. Aguardiente.
Aguardiente.
Oh, muy bien.
Yeah,
right, perfect.
Great.
So it'll about 2 shots in, you're fluent in Spanish. Now, it's not as strong as bourbon. is what you think. And then you realize your body does react differently. But you should try it. It's very good.
So like, what do you? Is it tequila?
Yeah,
Are we
what's it
talking
made out
about
of?
What is it?
It's the
devil's water.
It's the devil's water. I have no idea what it's made of. Nobody asked that question. We don't ask those questions. No, it's actually, believe it or not, this is what rum looks like before it goes into the barrels. So it's pre-rum before the barreling makes it have color and takes some of the alcohol content
I was
away.
just going to say, what the barreling does is actually decrease the alcohol.
Correct, exactly.
So you're giving us literally liquid suicide.
This makes life much clearer. You have no more questions to ask once you've taken a couple shots.
What do you drink this with?
Oh, no. You don't mix it with anything.
No, it's no ice, nothing.
No. Boom, boom. Let's go. Oh, yeah. No, you take a shot, done. That's it. That's it. Yeah. I would recommend, Josh, you take a shot. See what it's like.
Okay, you guys ask him a few questions. We're
going to see how this works for Josh. There you go.
I do have a question. So we've talked about how Sherrod Brown is a very, very tough out in Ohio. And some people say that he's lived kind of a charmed life. You know, he's had easy cycles year in and year out. But there are a lot of things to say about the guy. There are a lot of attacks that your predecessors have made and places they've come up short. I'm just wondering what you see as his biggest weakness this time around that you feel like will make the difference.
So I'd say three things. Number one, just been there too long.
Mm-hmm.
I think Democrats, Independents, Republicans, they don't like lifers. They don't like somebody who graduates from college and then all of a sudden you're in your 70s and you've never done anything in your life other than be an elected official. Number two, this job is really about representing Ohio in the United States Senate, so you should represent Ohio, but he doesn't represent Ohio. He represents Massachusetts. He's Massachusetts' third senator. You got Markey, Warren, and Brown. So you need a senator that represents Ohio. And then most importantly, number three, is the votes he takes do not help American workers. The people he claims to advocate for, the middle class, the worker, those are our people. Our policies help grow our middle class, have them thrive. His policies crush the middle class, and we'll expose that.
Oh, it's really well said. I'm going to do it.
Vámonos.
Oh my gosh, it's quite good.
Yeah, see, there you go. There you go. See what do you think?
I'm worried about what's going to happen in half an hour. Can you guys find me a place to stay tonight? Other than that, I mean, look, it's good.
Listen, 2 more shots, you're talking Spanish. 5 more shots, that you're doing the mariachi dance. This is fantastic. But it's
10
good, right?
shots on Pablo Escobar.
There you go. There you go. The next guest will be like, let me introduce you to my little friend.
I love it. It's so good. All right, wait, hold on. You need to ask Bernie our animal question because he was here before, so he got the 3 questions.
Yeah, so the audience has heard your answer to our 3 most important questions, but there is a 4th question which is not irrelevant. I mean, our audience is very, very interested in the entire animal kingdom and who can take on what animal at what point. So we have to ask you this, Bernie Moreno. What is the biggest animal that you could take on mano a mano and win?
Bare hands.
Well, that's easy. I have 2 of them in my primary. The rhino.
Oh, man.
I mean, we got to take out the rhino.
Wow.
All right? No, we don't need to kill them.
No.
We just need to reform them, right? So we just need to retrain the rhino.
That's definitely the most creative answer.
That is
Yeah, it was the first non-literal answer that we've had for sure. No, I mean, look, smart.
Great. Best one.
You've been thinking about it. I can tell somebody listens to the program.
Well, like I said, she may be listening to you guys a little too much. Just you know, I shouldn't say these things. This is where you know maybe I'm not a full-time politician my whole life. There's not enough media training. But my wife said to me, "Don't you dare embarrass me on that show."
Too late.
Do you have a personal relationship?
We're friends. We're all friends. I love it. So, all right. So for those who want to follow along, stay up to date with your campaign, perhaps help out if they're in Ohio or wherever, where can they do that?
Well, you know, there was these very wise political consultants that said something that really resonated with me, which is when the left gets mad, They go and donate money on WinRed. When the right gets mad, they vent on Facebook.
That's
right.
He's been lit.
And so
Yeah.
I thought that was the actually true, and I use that in rallies all the time.
Yeah.
So when we go and have events, we talk about that. $5 is meaningful, $10 is meaningful, $25 is meaningful. We're really proud of the fact that we've gotten a lot of low dollar contributions. That matters a lot.
It does.
They can do that on Bernie Moreno, MORENO.com. Follow me on Twitter for fantastic hot takes that my team loves.
Wait, hold on. I want to pause you on that. So you got this thing in your pocket. There's nobody running this thing. You're on it.
It actually comes from my own device. It's so funny because when I hear politicians going, I put this on Twitter, you wouldn't know how to log into the app. Okay, let's just be honest. You have some 25-year-old taking directions from 5 consultants, making sure every word is perfectly checked. I just go on there and I those are my thoughts. Those are me typing that nobody
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Fire them out there.
Fire them out there, right? Preferably before the 3 shots of aguardiente. Right, exactly.
I mean, there's nobody who's made himself more unelectable than Comfortably Smug. So I am not sure that
he's not running.
He's not the one to provide
He's not the dark horse candidate that we all looking for.
No, we're going to confirm him to a Supreme Court someday.
Lifetime appointment. Perfect. What could go wrong?
With your help. Listen, thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it. Good luck with everything. I know that this is going to be a hard race, but absolutely essential that we get to the finish line, and I'm glad you're doing it.
No, absolutely. You should invite Sherrod Brown on. I think he would love it.
Do you think he would love it?
I would love it. He would love it. Absolutely.
And as an aside, he actually lived in my apartment building years ago. Before I got married to my wife, I would come down to the lobby to get my mail or whatever, and he'd be down there milling around.
To clarify, the same building.
Yeah, not in the same.
We're roommates.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to clarify, some of your minions could be confused. They're like, why is Josh rooming with Sherrod Brown?
And that's why
that's a political story right there.
That's why you should vote for Frank LaRose.
Wow, that went wrong.
I'm kidding. We love you. Thank you for coming in. We really appreciate it. Stay in touch. Give us everything that you're working on, what you're doing. This is one of the most important races in the entire country, so we want to stay up to date.
You got it. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Anytime a guy from Ohio comes into the variety program, it's going to be a good day.
I knew you were going to have that take, but I will say that he did exceed all expectations. He brought us aguardiente,
which is phenomenal.
Wow. Great pronunciation.
Isn't that good?
You're really good at it.
He was right. You drink half a bottle, and all of a sudden you can speak fluent.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it after we recorded, but the guy sold cars.
Yeah.
Right? And that's one of the toughest sales to get done in any line of work.
Yeah.
Right? You're asking people to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a depreciating liability. It's like the largest transaction you make that doesn't appreciate in your life.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And
so, I mean, if you come up and you're very successful in doing that, you can charm the pants off people, and he charmed us.
Yeah, he did. Excellent interview.
It was good. All right, I think we did it.
Absolute banger of an episode, gentlemen. Thank you to Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. We will see you at that pregame show. And thank you so much to Bernie Moreno. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Friday. Stay ruthless.